Вітаємо вас, шановні пані та панове. Вітаємо вас на форумі «Велике будівництво. Дороги та мости».
And bridges.
Шановні пані та панове,
So, dear ladies and
президент
gentlemen,
України Володимир
welcome the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Доброго ранку.
So, good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, dear guests of this truly significant forum. I'm pretty sure all of you and all the citizens of our country will agree. Despite that the Constitution, the guarantees the freedom of movement. Unfortunately, this right to free movement has been limited for so many years in Ukraine, in fact. So, designing the ways, designing the solutions, new ways, building new bridges, building new roads. This was our task, and truly a very complicated task because, the limitation was actually in that. We had so many roads in absolutely horrible condition, all those crossings and bridges. We can't say that state power bodies were not doing anything. The government was trying to do something. All around Ukraine, we've been witnessing this. Not maybe some roadworks, but at least we saw the signs, all of us. And these signs warned us, all of us, warned us about the pit holes, about bumps, and other barriers we had in front of us. Fortunately, right now, I can tell you that mostly these can be forgotten. Agree. A couple of years ago, bridges and roads. How did these words sound to us? What was that like? It was related to something about teleportation, to something alien related. It was something out of science fiction. Everybody heard of that, but nobody saw that. Transforming roads and bridges, bringing it from this mythical fantasy world to the real world. We've started doing this 2 years ago. Our team and our wonderful program, Great Construction, this is what it's about. So I want to congratulate you all with that. Thank you for being a part of this big program. We've actually set a huge goal in front of us to renew 6,000 kilometers of roads, state and regional roads. And yes, what we had a lot of skepticism, of course. We were told, well, you will lack everything. You will lack personnel, you will lack money, there will be not enough of materials and equipment, but we had a huge wish and huge urge. That's what we wanted to show. That's what we want to do, to show our state that it can be different, totally different for everyone. And we even had better result than we planned. More than 6.5 thousand kilometers of roads were restored, renewed, or these were newly built in 2020. Previously, dozens of state programs declared these ambitious goals, but actually what they gave us, almost zero results, close to zero. So we stopped taking these categories of one budget year. So we changed our approach to state investment. We went beyond it. The tariffs and the price issues. We've merged these teams. We've united all the agencies around these long-term goals. We managed to involve state and international funds, and we actually increased the quality and lowered the price of 1 kilometer of the road. And as a result, what do we have? More than 7,000 kilometers of roads of various status. This year we have almost 14,000 kilometers of roads in 2 years of the Great Construction, under the Great Construction program. That's what we managed to do. So we restored and we built what we see today. According to statistics, more than 40% of key road infrastructure in Ukraine. So the key infrastructure, the major infrastructure network, which ensures connection between big cities and small towns, all our regions, all the settlements. We restored and built more than 500 bridge crossings and bridges all around the state.
найвищу
But,
оцінку
you know,
нашій роботі
the
дають
highest
результати
appreciation,
соціологічних опитувань.
it goes from the
дійсно,
sociological surveys
дуже
results. That's where we
цікаві.
get it. It's really interesting to
Кожен
read
третій
those
громадянин
papers. Each
України
third
вважає
citizen of
будівництво
Ukraine
доріг
considers the
найголовнішим
road construction
досягненням
issue to be one of the biggest
України у
achievements
2021
of
році.
Ukrainian state in 2021,
позитивні
actually. And
зміни
the positive
в
changes, the
інфраструктурі
positive
нашої
shifts
держави
in
означає
infrastructure area
Українці,
marked by
понад
so many Ukrainians. More than 60% of our citizens do claim that this is an
Висновок
achievement.
один.
So the
Велике
conclusion,
будівництво
great
має
construction
тривати і ставатись
has to
ще
continue and become more dynamic and just expand
Мова, зокрема, і
within the
про
following years. So we
розвиток
also speak
прикордонної
about the
інфраструктури.
development of
І
the
дійсно
border
дуже
infrastructure.
зроблено чимало.
And a lot is done.
У 2022
In
році
2022,
в рамках програми
in the framework of this program, we will launch the modernization of international crossing points, border crossing points. We will create the most comfortable infrastructure for people, for business, for our citizens, for the guests, for tourists. We will increase the throughput capacity
за рахунок
at the expense of electronic use, with electronic use, with modern infrastructure.
ще один ключовий
And I just want to remind you of one of the key infrastructure projects that we have, the construction of Kyiv
дуже довго
Detour Road, and everyone is talking about it. You know, we've started working, and right now we are at the experimental stage. We're just looking for the contractors and for the funding model of this ambitious project, and we do hope that we will see
міжнародних гравців.
powerful international actors and stakeholders who will help us to build this infrastructure object. And we already have the support today from our partners and the support of the European Union,
Банку
the World Bank, EBRD, and others.
ще доказ
And another evidence of the recognition of effectiveness of what we're doing.
інфраструктурної команди нашої
The
держави.
infrastructure team effectiveness, I mean, at the state level, and our reliability,
Це визнання якості
and truly the recognition of the quality
доріжних
of
мереж і тих
those road networks, of those infrastructure projects and objects which already built within these 2 years. So you just know that
непростий час.
we live in a very complicated times, but we do not complain. We have the global crisis today, of course, we all live in it.
Інфраструктури
And when we have the crisis in a crisis time, developing infrastructure is one of the best investments ever. This is a joint investment.
Інвестиція всіх громадян, бо дороги,
Investment of all the citizens.
садочки,
Kindergartens, roads, bridges,
спортивні комплекси, стадіони,
sports centers,
всі
stadiums,
інші наші об'єкти,
other
об'єкти
objects.
великого будівництва, вони
Objects under the great construction, these are being restored at the expense of our taxpayers.
Я хочу подякувати всім
I just want to express my gratitude
які
to
сумлінно і
all
чесно
Ukrainian citizens
сплачують
for their
податки.
responsible attitude to tax payment. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Truly, great construction is not just a program of state power. It's a program of our country. It's our joint effort. We do it all together with citizens. We build it together. And we'll definitely complete
Дорогами і
the project. We will have the renewed Ukraine
я
with
впевнений. Дякую за увагу.
the best roads and without fools. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Дякуємо.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. I just want to remind you that at the forum, Great Construction, Roads and Bridges, today we will talk about so many important issues, in particular the road infrastructure and investment, and its importance
ВВП нашої країни.
as a component of Ukraine's GDP. So the road transportation and Ukraine's, let's say, niche in the world map. In panel discussions, we'll talk about the transit permits, modernization of Ukrainian border crossing points, and digitalization. Just, it's important for all other reforms. What state ID services and infrastructure area we already do have, which are implemented, and how convenient and useful are these? And E-road system, of course, new opportunities and modules. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal.
Шановний пане президент України,
Dear Mr.
шановні пані та панове,
President, ladies and
колеги,
gentlemen, dear friends,
цей
dear
рік,
colleagues,
як і минулий,
this year, just like the
2020,
previous
пройшов
one,
в Україні
2020,
знаком
in Ukraine,
масштабного
this year was
оновлення
marked
дорожньої інфраструктури
with
в межах
this massive restoration of
президентського проекту
infrastructure
«Велике
on the great
будівництво».
construction
І, як
project
сьогодні вже казав президент України,
initiated by the president. As Mr.
7
Zelensky said,
державних і регіональних
7,000
доріг, які були
kilometers of state and
відновлені,
regional roads were
плюс,
renewed,
6,5
plus
минулого
6,5 thousand last year.
більш майже 14
More or less like 14,000
доріг,
in total.
безпрецедентна
14,000
цифра
kilometers, just
для
unprecedented amount, a
незалежної України.
groundbreaking record for the independent Ukraine, you know. And truly,
Будемо успішно
we will
продовжувати
successfully continue
реалізовувати цю
implementing
програму,
this
цей
program,
проект.
this
В межах
project
проекту 350
within the limits of
саме мостів було
this
відновлено.
project.
Це
350 of
також продовжується.
artificial installations like bridges were restored, and we have so many bridges still requiring reconstruction and renovation.
Напрямок також розвивається
And this area is developing under great construction as well,
загалом в цьому і
under its auspice. In 2021 and 2020, for the road infrastructure development and for bridge infrastructure as well, we spent already more than $10 billion, US dollars, and this is a record again.
гроші, не просто цифра.
It's not just a figure, it's not just statistics. Each hryvnia invested
Перепрошую, інфраструктурні
in
проекти
infrastructure
дає
projects
мультиплікативно від
gives
2
a
до
multiplied
6,5
ROI
гривень,
from 2 to 6.5
доходів в
hryvnias
інших галузях. Тобто це так
of income to other areas, economic multiplier that is called, which supports our economy. And last year we saw that despite the crisis, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, despite these forecasts, you know, of our international, given by international partners,
12% падіння ВВП.
we had
Насправді стримали
we managed to keep the GDP decrease despite the global crisis and got only a little bit less than 4% of decrease, thanks to infrastructure projects mostly. In 2022, we definitely will try to stay with the same pace. More than 40 billion hryvnias already allocated for roads and bridges. And I just want to note that we don't just use the money from the state budget. As President said, we also involve funds from our international partners, and we increase the effectiveness of our cooperation. And the next stage, the private sector funds, and we speak about concession. So the first concession highway, Харківець-Броди-Рівне, Lviv-Broddy-Rivne, which will start next year. And this is also a very significant step for Ukraine, because the business funds, the business syndicate funds, global syndicate will give another stimulus, another push for us to improve our transit potential, tourism potential. And the first highway, of course, it's important. But we do realize that Stry Mukachevo, the second project, that already so many partners are competing for, business partners, I mean, just to enter this concession project. And you know, the development of concession roads in Ukraine is one of our huge economic perspectives. But if you speak about transit and tourism, one of the bright projects of state and regional cooperation, example of this cooperation, the Carpathian Circle, by the way. 2 days ago, together with the minister, we presented it during the regional visit to Ivano-Frankivsk region, by the way. And very important project, 640 kilometers of roads, which will reveal fully the potential, tourist potential of Carpathian Mountains, Ukrainian Carpathians, transit potential again between Romania and Ukraine and Poland. And similar projects, of course, must reveal all the opportunities and all the potential for our economy in the environment that we are in today. So, regarding the road construction project, as the President mentioned today, finally people feel and people witness that, people confirm that when we meet them. Sociology says yes to that as well. So people feel and people see, they do observe this, that this is truly a significant, groundbreaking project for a country. It gives the result. And we can see that roads and bridges in Ukraine become better and better. And the percent, we will bring it 100% in a couple of following years. Thank you. Thank you. So I wish us all to have some very productive work. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shmyhal. Ladies and gentlemen, Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine, Alexander Kubrakov.
Доброго дня.
So, good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, dear participants, guests, and friends. A year ago, in this hall, we were drawing the conclusions of our first construction season, like the first year of the project. I remember not so many believed that, had faith in that we actually will overcome all these problems, that we will manage to fund these kilometers. But that was the second year when we closed it fully. 2019, 2020 was the second year, and we actually proved this to be true. These kilometers are not virtual, these are real. And 2021, I've even added some more. We see now more that we have so many additional kilometers, local roads, intrastate roads, international roads. What the sociology says, I will not stop at it a lot, but truly very interesting things. People, well, we speak about Paralympics, you know, and we actually talk about Paralympics and great construction as very equal things. So people even compare that stuff today, so it means that it's really important. Imagine the Olympic medals and great construction. Well, good roads has to be something routine and normal. Truly, the road construction, according to various surveys, we can see it. What is interesting, 64% of people do consider the Ukravtodor activity satisfactory. We understand that these stickers on the car, I hate Ukravtodor. You know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, this was quite a typical practice for a state, but right now 64% of our citizens say yes to Ukravtodor and they approve their activity. Second, the state investment and finance management. If we compare 2019 and 2021, in 2019 we spent 21 billion hryvnias for the state roads. In 2021, 106 billion, 5 times more for the state roads. 2019 and 2021, not pretty much difference when it comes to economics, but this is just about the priority of our team, okay? So everything can be done, everything is possible, and everything we heard before, you can't do it, it wasn't that true, you know? So what else I want to say? Within 2 years, we managed to involve additional funds under state guarantees, and for the first time this year, Ukravtodor actually had a very low interest rate for Eurobonds, 6.25. This is truly a huge achievement, and we'll continue doing that. We'll continue with that practice. We have various estimates like Ukraine Economical and Kyiv School of Economics, National Bank, and various forecasts they do give. But what we see, that the contribution of great construction in the GDP, 2, 3, 4%, but definitely it's a huge, huge piece. And we are not the only one who recognizes this. And we have big countries like the US, Australia, European Union, Italy, Canada, everyone. Within these crisis years, the last 2 years, they've been launching their big infrastructure projects still. It's a practice. Recently, the US, both chambers actually voted, both houses, they supported this great construction in US, $500 billion. Nobody is criticizing this. Everybody says, okay. And their infrastructure, let's say, is not in the best condition. It used to be built as the best one once, but it requires restoration as well, just believe me. So in figures again, 2021, almost 5.1 thousand kilometers of state roads, 250 of various bridges and installations. So actually, we can say that it was growing and growing starting from 2019. If we compare 2019 and 2020 with the competition, with the obligatory examination of the projects, the price fell from 25 to 22 million hryvnias. This year, we had so many construction materials just becoming more expensive. The logistics also is expensive, you all know that, but still, we saved money. Comparing to 2019, almost 18% less than we had in 2019. So 1 kilometer is cheaper if we compare.
Беремо дані системи
If we
Прозоро.
take all the restored kilometers, if we take the Prozoro data, it's cheaper anyway, despite the fact that many factors, many components are more expensive. If we talk about state and local roads, separate figures, we have 2020 and 2021, 13,800 in 2 years, I mean kilometers. What is interesting?
19 рік загалом було
In 10 years,
10,600 кілометрів. Тобто ми за 2
before
роки
that,
зробили більше,
we
ніж було зроблено
had
за
only
попередні
10,000.
10 років.
In 2 years, we managed to do more than in the previous 10. Wow. So, mega project, as we call it. I'll take it separately. Zaporizhzhia Bridge. I just want to give some joy to you. 2 days ago, we completed
І, в принципі, в січні ми
this test stage. In January, we actually launched
країни,
the vehicles.
Запоріжжя особливо, тобто
So it will function. It will be fully functional.
багато
And
років.
in Zaporizhia, people were suffering from traffic jams for so many years. Nobody even believed. But officially, they started building it like
80-х років, да?
2004 talked about this in 1980s. And also,
Є Немирів-Ямпіль,
Nemiriv-Yampil, for example.
повністю побудовано.
This road is completely built
За рекордні 90
R08 in 90 days, groundbreaking 90 days. And next year we actually start, and we've already started building it with Moldovan partners.
Республіка Молдова. І це буде великий
This is going to be the very big infrastructure project for Ukraine and for Moldova, because this is going to be the tour and is going to be the fastest way from Kyiv to Kishinev. And there's going to be the tour in the Transnistrian Republic. So we also are working on the Kremenchuk bridge. We're using the new technology there as well, and I do believe that next year we're going to see that bridge. It will not only be
де зараз буріння
below
відбувається,
the water when we now have the main drilling going on, but we're going to see that's the main results about the water. So about the Kiev main road, so we're going to launch the tender, and I do hope that in February or March we're going to have the contracts signed and we're going to start our first location there. The projects have already been finalized, and the project work on the next parts are all going to be finalized as well. So the next year will be definitely important year for the building of the road for us, but this is something that has been discussed for multiple years already, and what hasn't happened yet. Speaking about the regions and the updated kilometers, I'm not going to get into details about that, but basically I just wanted to say that our main focus for the next year is going to be the south of Ukraine, Odessa, Mykolaiv, Kherson regions. They were the least prepared, and it turns out that nothing was constructed there and renovated there. In Mykolaiv and Kherson region, they've had the least number of the ready-made projects when we've started. And for the next years to come, that's definitely going to be our priority, and we're going to be compensating what we were not able to cover before. So if we're speaking about the preservation of the roads after the big construction, so we can see we have the automated weight control starting to work right now. A very brief statistics just for us to take a look at the overall amount of the traffic that has been shown in the automated weight control, higher than 12 tons of weight. And let us take a look about the different. We have around the fines for more than 10 million hryvnia. So what we have already seen, we have 102 wages that have been built, and we're going to start them in exploitation. And I do believe that next year we're going to fight this problem overall when we are going to set out it for the main ports, when we're going to start it for the main ports as well. So that is why I wanted to actually congratulate everyone because we were able to find the statistics and get to the statistics. And now we have seen how we are increasing the overall amount of our carriage that Ukrzaliznytsia is carrying. We now understand that now we are switching that from the roads to trains. So yeah, we created the platform that we really wanted to create. So yes, very briefly on the reform of the road sector. So yes, we have finalized our anti-corruption project with EBRD, and Ukravtodor is going to be the first state institution that has been certified according to the international institutions on the pricing. So we are having additional bylaws that are being issued with the laws of Ukraine. So our road sector is going to to be the first who's going to be introducing the transparent pricing. The digitalization of our e-road systems, and a lot of people have already knew that, that's
Журналісти, тобто всі бачать, як працюють.
everybody knows how it's been seen, and overall online we see how many roads have been built, what is going to be the waste of money in that case. The procurement with our European partners, EBRD, we're introducing the European standards and we're going through the CIPS certification. So those are the very fundamentally important things that are happening right now. If we were talking about the construction till 2024, and speaking about the kilometers, and we have already spoken about the overall amount of the kilometers, we keep on moving in this direction overall, and I just wanted to outline the importance. The three regions here, Zakarpattia, Lviv, and Zakarpattia, Lviv, and Ivano-Frankivsk, that's all connected to the development of our mountain touristic stations. Another road that I wanted to outline was Kyiv-Odessa road, and finally our European partners have supported us. We have already announced the tender for the first parts of the road, and we're starting to build the new roads next year. So all of the credit agreements have already been signed, so that is the final moment for us. Krakowiec-Rivne, that's also a concession road for that. I just wanted to thank our Prime Minister for their attention, because a lot of things have been moved with our personal connections and with our personal communication. So we have met together, discussed it, and when we had the decree of the government straight away. So we also a couple of the projects that we've had signed with the EBRD and IC, the two projects at the Kharkiv-Dnipro-Zaporizhzhia road and Kovel-Yagodin road. Those are the two parts of the roads that are going to be constructed in collaboration with our international partners. And a separate attention, I wanted to speak about our southern road corridor, the M14 road, Odessa-Mykolaiv-Kherson road. At this very point, it is in, let us put it this way, not ideal state. It is overloaded. There only has 2 lanes. This is the category 2 road. We're going to be working on making it the category 1 road. We're starting to build the first parts of it right now. So we have a concrete road from Mykolaiv, and I do hope that for the next year we're going to have a very big breakthrough in this direction. And the south of Ukraine will be connected, the 3 main cities in the south of Ukraine will be connected with a normal road. So I wanted to thank all of you once again. So of course we are implementing this project all together. All of the branches of our government are supporting this project, and the main secret for our success is about that, having all the support, that everything will be resolved as fast as possible. We have the government, we have the parliament, we have the president who's going to be intervening in this project when needed and help us to facilitate all of it. So thank you very much. We will continue for the next 2 years as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just in a couple of minutes from now, we're going to start our first session and the first panel discussion. The first panel discussion that will be discussing the investment for the road infrastructure. So I'm really grateful to Prime Minister of Ukraine and President of Ukraine for opening of the forum.
Прізвище як ваше? Миколин Олег і Табачук. А прізвище? Гінчак Євген.
So good day, my name is Serhiy Vovka. I'm the head of the Transport Strategy Center. Serhiy, we do not start yet, that we have still the press conference ongoing.
Пані та панове, в рамках нашого форуму ми розпочинаємо
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start the first session in the framework of our forum, and it's going to be dedicated to the investment into road infrastructure. And I would like to pass the floor to the moderator of our today's discussion, Serhiy Vovka, the chief editor of CTS edition. So, Serhiy, I wish you and your speakers a very productive discussion. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to see all of the participants in the room, all of the participants online. I do recall the very same session that we have conducted last year. And the main difference between those two sessions, between this year and last year, is that last year, according to my observations, I think we were mostly speaking about plans. Today, we're going to be discussing the results most of all. And I do believe that this is the great outcome of the work that has been conducted throughout the year, and I do hope it will be effectively continued throughout the years as well. I think that I would like to start with introducing our speakers today, so please welcome Olena Shulyak, the head of the political party Servant of the People. We also have Andriy Evkom, the head of Ukravtodor, Mustafa Naiem, the deputy minister of infrastructure of Ukraine, and Mikhailo Kukhar, the senior lecturer of the main Kiev University and macroeconomist. So today we're going to be having the different points of view from kilometers and figures, and ending up with those millions and billions that are seen in the economy of Ukraine, and we will be able to discuss in what way it changes the landscape, the political and social landscape. Because when we're talking about the big construction, we're not just speaking about the overall infrastructure. It's about something that is going to give the main push for the further on development of Ukrainian economy and the regions overall. So it's not just about the infrastructural function itself. So I would like to start with a very fast blitz questions, just one sentence answer. I think that you were all present here at the very same conference last year. So at your point of view, what we managed to do and what we did not. Just a one sentence. If you speak in one sentence, that just quite recently one of the sociological group has published their research, and they said that the Great Construction Program is a top 3 achievements of year 2021. So I do believe that we already were able to achieve the goals of the Great Construction. Okay, thank you. Evkom? So you know what we managed to do last year. We've managed to have 4.5 thousand kilometers of roads updated and renovated. We have more than 5,098 kilometers updated right now. The plans on our bridges was 165. We already has completed 250 bridges completed. What we haven't covered yet, we still have the desire to continue our work. We wanted to make it faster, and we wanted to make it in a high-quality way. So we keep on working and keep on moving further on. Okay, thank you. I think that one of the main achievements is, first of all, the change in the opinions of Ukravtodor. If I will see now the sticker, I love Ukravtodor, I will believe that we've managed to do everything. So Mustafa, the floor is yours. Not that much about the roads, but basically I do believe that we've managed already to restore their trust to those institutions that control the road safety. What we haven't managed yet is to change our face at the border so that the people who are coming to Ukraine, the people entering Ukraine, would not treat us as people who do not know how to build and do not know how to work at the border. I do hope that next year we'll be able to cover that as well. Mikhailo? Yes, this year has been a year of the record growth, and I do believe that a year like this will not come soon, so I do believe all of the years will be worth it. I think we have under-evaluated this year. Yet, I will give you more details when you'll pass the floor for me for the presentation. Okay, thank you. So I would like to pass the floor to Andriy Ivko, and we have had a lot of numbers, a lot of figures from Mr. Kubrakov, but then again, if we would like to talk about those results and figures in kilometers, in roads, in bridges, in tons. So what has been done in the year before, and maybe a very brief blitz of what are we going to be doing next year, because I do believe that we have now changed to this moment when we have completed a half of it, but there's still half left. Yes, thank you very much. I'm pleased to welcome everyone here today at our final event when we are trying to sum up the year 2021, and we're summing up the 2 years that what we were able to do throughout these 2 years of the great construction. And in the end, I would like to also speak about what it is planned to be done for the next couple of years. The infrastructure is one of the biggest scaled and the most important sectors for our country as of today. And the infrastructure is the one that is responsible for the well-being and the welfare of the people, and the competitiveness of our country at the international grounds overall. For the second year in the row, we were tying up the country with the roads, and what we were able to do at this moment. Last year, we were able to restore more than 4,000 kilometers of roads. This year, we have already restored more than 5,000 kilometers of roads of the state level. That's more than 11% of all of our road network. For the final 2 years, we have restored of our state significant roads for more than 10,000 kilometers. That's about 10% of our main road network. Today, we have already seen that we have this opportunity to use those roads like M33, from Stry to Izvara. Now, this is the longest road, 1,400 kilometers. It has been almost fully completed, and we can comfortably use this road. There's also the M16 road for Zolotonosha, Uman R08 in Rivne region that has been completed in a record 90 days. Quite recently, we have also launched the 1,000 detour of Dnipro city that has been completed, that has been a promise for 10 years, but finally we were able to complete the construction of this road, and we've launched the main traffic on this part of the road that gives the opportunity for Dnipro city to cover those traffic that they currently have. Ukravtodor is aiming not only to restore the quantitative indicators and restore the roads, but we also want to transform the sector. We're managing to do that at the moment. The sector is transforming, and among our main priorities are as follows. We would like to increase the scope of the road renovation. We're also having a lot of attention dedicated to the quality control, to the quality of the restoration and the construction works. The main priority for us is the systematic approach and sustainability in the road policy of Ukraine and the preservation of the roads. As the Minister of Infrastructure has already outlined, we have already constructed 102 weight-in-motion grounds, and we are hoping to decrease it by 51 additional weight and movement lots. With the help of the digitalization, we're ready to move faster into those directions as well. And without the digital tools, it would have been really hard for us to introduce the innovative tools for the road sector. So currently we are concentrating on three main directions. We're talking about developing a platform, and we have this database, the database that we collect and process for the analytics, for the prioritization of the objects. And we also have the ERP system that really works, that's called the e-road. This is a main platform for the central governmental bodies and for the people locally would be able to govern the structure, will be able to make decisions overall, will be able to make the decisions on effective use of money, and will be able to facilitate the construction and reconstruction processes. We're also considering the international practices and innovations in digital technologies, and we are moving into this direction as well. And one thing another that I wanted to mention in this case, that cybersecurity is an important component to our work. It's one of the priorities for us as of today. What it is that we are planning and what we would like to see. We would like to see and we would like to receive, after using these tools, we would like to have the transparency so that all of us would be able to communicate through transparent tools. We do hope that the prioritizing of our roads and the buildings or additional objects would be made not with a human participation, but by our software products. What I also wanted to outline, that has been a lot of attention, a lot of money and a lot of efforts that have been dedicated to the safety of the traffic overall. So that is why in 2021 we have increased the main indicators on all of the directions of the road safety. We have spoken about increasing the number of the road lights, so we have more than 605 kilometers of road lights, updated the barriers and fencing. Except for the road safety, we are also taking care of the comfort of the people who are commuting and who are considering the comfort of the pedestrians. We're using the additional signing for the pedestrian crossings from the side for the sidewalks. We have increased by 2 the amount of the road signs, but we're not only stopping on that, so we are having more and more additional traffic signing. We have more than 25 kilometers of that, and this all has given us the opportunity to decrease the overall amount of the emergency situations and of the accident situation concentration. We have taken more than 28 main spots that were before the main sources of the traffic emergencies. So we can see that the 21 company in year 2021 has participated in the state agreements and state tenders for more than $1 billion overall. They were able to restore the equipment, and most of the road companies were able to update their equipment by almost 53%. We also see that the prices of the main materials have increased their flow and participation. If we have seen the statistics that before 2019, the main production of concrete has been provided for the construction of the residential housing. So right now we see the statistics that 80% of our construction production is being dedicated to the road construction. The side road infrastructure, now the international companies are really interested to work to build up these objects of infrastructure. We have the MO3 road that currently sees the new McDonald's restaurant built all along the road. Speaking about the artificial constructions and the bridges constructions. At the very beginning of the Great Construction Program, we have 53% of decayed or unusable bridges at the very beginning of the program. Overall, around Ukraine, we have 16,000 bridges. 5,000 bridges are connecting the roads of the state significance and more than 9,000 for the road of the local significance. As it has already been said, for these 2 years, we were able to restore more than 400 bridges that have been already updated and restored, and that all have been possible with the help of the program of the National Bridge Restoration. We had 105 artificial construction that have been updated due to updating their maintenance conditions. And still, speaking about the objects that have been built for a longer period of time, for 15 years, for 10 years in a row. We are currently completing the final stages of construction, and we have good examples of it. For example, for Odessa region and the Hadzibai Lake, that we had already restored the road completely, and right now people are able to use this road and able to use this detour and able to use this bridge, and they're able to do that comfortably and safely. So we have a couple of additional top objects, the mega projects, as Alexander has said. So one of them is the Kremenchuk Bridge, and this year we have signed the agreement for the design and build agreements. The project has already been completed. They have passed through all of the needed expertise. Now, right now, the main building and the main construction phase is being held. We have already 22 pillars that have been already mounted. We are keep on moving further on, and we have all of the chances that the bridge that we have planned we will have constructed in 3 years. Zaporizhzhia Bridge. The Zaporizhzhia Bridge, last year, together with the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, we have launched the traffic for our first constructive bridge. Right now, we are finalizing the other part of this bridge. So right now, we have already had additional 48 pillars that have been already built. We have they have completed the main project of the bridge. We're now already starting the final mounting works and signing up, connecting the lights, the traffic lights there. That will definitely help us to mitigate and facilitate the traffic in Zaporizhzhia, and will give us the opportunity not to go in the traffic jam in Zaporizhzhia.
Another big project that I want to tell about, Yampilsky Bridge, MO8, Vinnytsia Road in Vinnytsia region, and it runs to this artificial bridge installation, and we already have some project work going there, and we had the agreement concluded, and by the end of the year we plan to get the expert's opinion. And right now we have the preparatory stage. In 2022 we will launch the high scale. I'm sorry, Andrei, just try to accelerate, please, if it's possible. We'll come to plans for the following years, 2022, 2024. Yeah. Okay, what we plan for the next year and the following ones, just to restore 770 of artificial installations. Also some areas that we plan to work with the Kyiv Detour Road, also Kharkiv-Lviv-Brody Concession Road, Kharkiv-Dnipro route, M14 Odessa-Mariupol, N08 Boryspil, Dnipro, those routes, those areas that we plan to push in 2022 and actually to perform. So Ukravtodor already presented these papers for the industry 10-year development, like a plan. So together we will definitely transform the industry and we'll continue moving. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Definitely, we have so many qualitative indicators, but I just want quantitative, but I just want to come to quality. Because when we speak about quality, it's about how we change the social landscape of the country. Olena, I have a question to you. So we truly see regions today, some of these are like already tied together. They already remind us of some patchwork blanket. And what opportunities do regions get? What capacity do they get? How actively are they involved in the process? Okay, good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen, again to you, our colleague, Mr. Ivko, gave you a lot of figures. And yeah, the achievements that we can boast, and an hour will not be enough for us to count all. But I just want to stress on another stuff, the community development. The high-quality infrastructure, how does it affect, actually, the processes within our small settlements, what we have in our towns, cities, and villages? In 2 years, the great construction truly renewed more than 13,000 of kilometers of roads, of national roads, I mean, and local roads, and we were creating this patchwork blanket, you know, trying to connect various settlements, and we were even entering the smallest towns, you know, with our project. And I just want to give you one case. I personally was so astonished with it. Mykolaiv region, Yelenetska community, there was a horrible condition of N14 road, you know, and just imagine, in 21st century, even the cars refused to go to that community, any vehicles, because of the road condition, and they simply did not deliver the food. Just think about it, that this is actually possible when we speak about food delivery because of the crisis, and just think of it. Of course, this road was restored, and today a wonderful new concrete road used by cars, and of course the personal transport of the community dwellers. But how many of those roads we have around Ukraine? How many we still need to restore in the plans that we've set 2 years ago? In Kyiv, we can plan anything regarding the implementation of urban parks, ice arenas, but okay, let's first start with the community, with essential community issues. We need to focus on the basic stuff still. Today, also a lot of attention is paid to the roads being built for these to play a role in the economy improvement by giving extra tourist potential stimulus. So we actually want the roads to reach all the seaside settlements, and we really want to implement this project called Small Carpathian Circle and these small tourist locations in mountainous regions to be easily reached. Also, the roads to recreation zones like Askania Nova, or national parks, or various recreational objects in Zakarpattia. So we definitely think that communities, well, they also took very active part in that, for this infrastructure to be expanded. And today we talk with figures. In 2021, more than 70 roads were the roads where we involved local money. We did not just spend the national budget money, but also the community's contribution was there. In 2022, I want to have more of these projects where we have this co-funding at local and national level. What are the plans? How we plan to work with communities in 2022? In our plans, what we have is to create on the basis of our political party, the Servant of the People, to create a platform to actually start working with the communities, which will become the platform for interaction between the central executive power bodies and respectively the communities. Why do we actually need it? The thing is, the presidential program Great Construction itself is a platform already for coordination and communication between various state power bodies. And this is the principle that should be used by this newly created platform for communities. On the slide, you can see this brief algorithm, compressed algorithm, how shall we initiate the project, how the project will actually get to the funding stage and implementation stage as well. Today, the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ukravtodor, they have so many successful cases when these institutions involved also private money, and they cooperated with IFIs. And the last successful case when the Ministry of Infrastructure, EIB, and Ukrainian towns under the program of city transport, city public transport. Well, what the result is, we'll have this environmentally friendly public transport in 18 cities. We want this practice to be taken as a routine one in each community where people can cooperate with experts, get some support from the state, correct mistakes if some are these, when, for example, the budgets are prepared or the budget plans. And it's really what we would love to have, the communities to generate such projects which may compete. I want these projects to compete. And I really want to involve the dwellers of the communities to select these projects, for them to be active when it comes to such activity. If we do talk about these cross-cutting programs in Ukraine, the big restoration, we have this, or the new village, excuse me, or a program related to thermal modernization, energy independence. We also have programs related to regional airports restoration, and right now we work with a project called Community Policing Officers. We really want to merge this all in one big platform for the communities, and this may be an effective mechanism which will allow us to disseminate the programs, distribute these, and ensure the outreach at local level as well. I think that in this specific way, the state at central level may promote communities to become more proactive when it comes to planning, funding particularly, and funding of projects which definitely improve the quality of life of our people locally. Let's be honest, this is another step to actual decentralization, to actual capacity, to actual autonomy of the communities, but also it's a clear signal from the state executive, from the central executive power bodies, that we are ready to help our communities with the projects to give results all around Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Miss Elena. Definitely, truly magnificent projects which can be implemented in Ukraine. One of these that we have in the US called Adopt a Road. Okay, when a business operator or a community takes responsibility, takes a commitment to maintain the road, the local road or a piece of a road. So, and this is a win-win situation because these roads, they're used by the dwellers, by the businesses, and the system itself wins because you can control it locally better, set the priorities, and therefore just make the system more functional. Definitely, we have a lot of opportunities to cooperate. We have IFIs open to these projects. We hear it all the time. I think starting from the next year, this will be a huge transitional stage for the great construction, like it will come from the state level to the city and community level. So, Mustafa Naim, I would like to pass the floor to you, ask you about the service function as it is. You mentioned the border crossing points. Yes, definitely. This is like the first thing that you face, the first thing that any ordinary tourist gets coming to Ukraine, businessman or a driver of a truck. And this is actually a face. It shapes the reputation of Ukraine in the world. So how can we make this infrastructure smooth, meaning the smooth surface of the road, but also transparent? What deadlines do you see when you speak about these projects? Okay. So, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'd just like to change the question a little bit. What we actually do in the infrastructure industry, of course, everybody understands that we have roads, we have something being built by the ministry and the installations, but we need it in the country, of course, but we also want to export our products. This is our face, this is our image, global image. All roads lead to borders anyway, and still, anyway, we have to create these services for our transporters, for those who export the commodities, and we have a huge problem. I'll start from very far. 40% of our export in the country is transported by road transport. So usually it's the western border because, you know, when we had the aggression outburst in eastern Ukraine, we reoriented the economy. We now have the bordering countries, primarily Slovakia, Poland, Romania, Hungary, Moldova. And we are very dependent on them because this is the border that actually it's like an export corridor for us that we use to transport our commodities to European Union. What we have in the world. In the world, we have this permit system functioning. All countries are actually exchanging this specific amount of permits mutually, and if the level of commodity exchange is increasing, but still with the same amount of permits, it's not good. So we are actually coming very close to this line, to this border, when there's not enough permits to cross the border. So 40% more of the product turnover we have today, we refused from Russian market, reoriented to Western neighbors, and now we have like this wall made of permits from Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. Primarily. So it doesn't mean that they are good or bad. This is economy, this is business, this is competition. We do not politicize the issue because we understand these countries are partners in political sense. Of course, but when it comes to economy, yes, we feel that this is slightly different. Just for you to get it, what we have today. Starting from August, we have stopped all export to Poland. Poland is one of 12 countries of the EU where we export our commodities actively. What does it mean? It means that, for example, today, 34,000 of border crossing cases, these did not happen because there were no permits. 500 million euros last year. This year we'll have much more serious consequences, financial ones. And we understand that this is an artificial barrier for us. I don't even mention that this is a violation of an association agreement, and for me, well, you actually, just like me, you supported the case that we had in 2013, so we reoriented, we made a decision, we picked the EU vector, and right now we simply cannot export. Who is suffering from this? Primarily, Ukrainian companies do suffer, but it inflicts damage on those companies who invested in Ukraine and simply cannot get the commodities out. Metro Cash and Carry company is asking us, or Coca-Cola company, or Berlin-Chem, Carlsberg. Those countries, well, companies, sorry, which invested in Ukrainian economy, gave us new jobs, create certain value in Ukraine. They can't bring the product out. What we see, Germany, for example. Last year, we had a specific amount of permits, but Germany is increasing the amount of permits for 15%. Netherlands increasing, Belgium increasing 30% more. Bordering countries do not. Neighbors, they don't. We just, you know, are stuck at the borderline. What is the exit? What is the solution? We have to shift, I guess, to another modality. We just need to change we need to stop reporting on the agreement execution. Let's start using the agreement as a way for us to stand for our rights. We did not sign the agreement to be the one to blame. We actually signed it to have a right to go to the market, to have this equal right with all European countries, and the association agreement allows us actually in 5 years to revise it in 5 years and to sign additional agreements and protocols. Article 136 tells us that we can sign an additional agreement which will allow us to shift to liberalization of transit for the countries we have bordering with us, not to be able to forbid us to export the commodities to other states. Yes, we can have bilateral agreements, but Poland or Slovakia cannot forbid us to transport our goods to Germany. It's an artificial trade barrier. It's discrimination, pure discrimination of our transporting companies. But of course, there is some criticism regarding the roads and border crossing points, and it's justified. A lot is done in 2021. The construction of roads leading to borders and border crossing points equipped fully to get rid of that criticism with no queues, get rid of the queues as well. The next year priorities, we have Zakarpattia, Chernivtsi region, Volyn region, of course. In these regions, we will equip the border crossing points. It's already public information. There is a task from the government to put in commission restoration and refurbishment. So actually, to delegate this task to the Ministry of Infrastructure, how it works in civilized countries. If we say that the road leads to border, yes, the border crossing points should be built by those who build the roads. That's the logic. We simply don't want to... Okay, we need to create proper conditions for the customs, okay? Because the customs and the border guard service, it's not their function to build. They're not builders. We work together with them. Primarily for those border crossing points we have at West, to finally come under the responsibility of the ministry. First, to finally create proper conditions there for the customs and the border guard, of course. It's a strange thing because all border crossing points for other types of transport, railway, waterways, airways, in the responsibility of Ministry of Infrastructure, we work with it. Just the road infrastructure is still not controlled by the ministry. We want actually to equip it, to refurbish it for people just to get rid of the queues. Next, I will be very... Yeah, be very concise. Roads to borders. M07, M10 leading to Краківець, Львів, Броди, Рівне, and Kyiv, Kovel, Yagodin. Yagodin, we've been equipping it right now. We have a dream. Next year we want to have a proper border crossing point, an electronic queue. A huge team of experts do work on this together, and I do hope that the Volyn administration will help us. The last thing, what we do for the state transport safety service. All state services must be maintained. Okay, someone has to ensure the safety. If we create a service, if we actually issue a license or permit, someone has to control it. This year, I guess, within the last 4 months, we've managed to improve our attitude to the market. There's no such attitude saying, like, let the market come to us and ask us to do something.
We're very open for all of the associations, and at this very moment, I just wanted to say that we haven't left a single function that hasn't been digitalized at this moment. We don't have these issues already because, remember, people said that there was the permissions, the permits that have been stolen. I'm not going to promise you that, but I would really like to have it. And I have a dream with my team that for the next year we would forget about the permits that has been stolen. So we will not have it at all, because right now we are introducing the QR codes, we're introducing the customs control system. We're going to have additional selection of our employees as well. I do hope that we will have more people working this year, and it's not going to be the situation when someone has stolen the permits and selling it for $300 at the end of the year. You know that we have the change of the customs leadership, and I do hope that we will have the absolutely full reload of all of the structures. And what concerns what you see on the screen right now, the automated weight control, that is something that is going to help us to decrease overall violations by 3. So this is, you can see the 17 stations that already work. We have 24 stations currently working. We have built more than 100 WIM stations, and right now they have been also certified. I do hope that the next year will be the year of WIMs for us, because it will help us to take down all of the inspectors from the road, so we have the automated fixation of all of the violations, speaking on the weight control. And the final thing for me to sum up, it's about the passenger carrying as well, and the next year we would really like to liberalize this market, but to preserve the control. We want to restore the control of the auto stations. You know, it has been taken down, so right now you can build whatever you want in the auto station. So I do believe that's not the right thing to do. We have to once again restore our criteria for the stations to be built so that the carriers and the passengers would feel comfortable. I do hope that the passengers carrying won't have those competition or tenders where people would identify it only based on money, who's going to have the victory and who's going to be operating on this route. Anyone can use this route if you are eligible for the transportation means that you have. You just have to provide that you are identifying what are the control points from you, and we will be able to control the regularity of this carrying through the GPS. Thank you, that's all. That's not all I wanted to say. Yes, thank you, but I do hope you'll still have time to talk about the results. Mikhailo, I think that is a very harsh task for you, because you have around like 5 minutes, and in this 5 minutes we have to answer a very fundamental question. How does that influence the economy overall? Does it influence at all? So is the great construction, is this pillar that will help us, at least if not grow, then not to fall in our macroeconomical growth? Thank you, Sergei. I will try to get into this 5 minutes. I will try to be even faster. We're going to have the first slide right now. Okay, so I have to turn it on. Yes, now you, yes, no, yes, we have the first slide already. Okay, good, thank you. So this is the figures that we're going to be discussing for the next year, or even for the next 2 years, I would believe. That's right now we are closing the year of the record growth of economy. On the 31st of December, we have fallen asleep with a country that had $150 billion GDP, and we woken up on the 1st of January, who had more than $200 billion. That's more than 29% of growth. And Alexander Kubrakov has said that the share of the great construction in this part last year was significant, that we haven't just a downfall of 11%, we have fallen just by 4%. That was the concept of it. And this year we have seen that slightly different picture. We have even a more paradoxical picture, and I'm just going to show it to you right now if I will find this slide. So take a look at this. In this previous presentation, that was we had this very strange word multiplier here, but you know, you've referred to the research of the Kyiv School of Economy and the National Bank that the great construction has multiplier 1.4. Unfortunately, that's not the truth. It's much higher. So, and I'm ready to discuss that, because the normal multiplier for Ukrainian economy, as we know, for all of our GDP, except for the great construction, we have a couple of other multipliers as well. So it is about 55%. If the great construction would have the multiplier by only 1.4, then the great construction would actually do the negative impact on the GDP, because we're taking the money with taxes, and then we're not able to restore it. So no, the multiplier of the great construction is very clear, 2.05. And that has been already shown in these figures. You can see those figures that are available. We have had it from the work from the FinBack from 2004. So they have we have seen that in economy. That we have seen those things in the economy for multiple years already. So that is why this year we can state that the impact of the great construction would be additionally 43 billion of economical growth, and you can see that, and this is the final slide that I wanted to sum up, and I do believe that you will be able to see the quarterly divided impact. We're very careful in evaluating the growth of real GDP. You know, 29 is the growth of plus 29 is the basically gross growth in the billion dollars US dollars. But overall, we have the clear growth. So again, we have to consider the inflation over here, that it's a sensational figure as well. So even though Everything is growing really good, and the salaries has grown by almost 20%, but unfortunately the prices have grown by 27% already. So the real growth is not really high. It doesn't mean that we become poorer. It's not good or bad. It's just that the characteristics of the year. It's quite clear that next year the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Economy, they're preserving their optimism that the growth will be higher than 3%. Maybe that will be even much higher than 3%, but if it at least is going to be as 2.7%, as our group has calculated, then the paradox would be that this 2.7, the biggest share of that growth will be due to the great construction, because this is this number itself, this figure itself, 143 billion, that is the real number of our growth this year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. The closer we come to the end of the year, then the figures becoming weirder. I think everybody recalled this joke about the differences between optimism and pessimism, while speaking about the glass, which is half full or half empty. So considering those numbers and those trends that we have voiced out right now, so we can state clearly that everything concerning the great construction is the optimistic point of view, and we're speaking about the glass that is half full. Of course, there's a lot of work that we have to cover still, and I do hope that next year at the very same meeting we'll be able to discuss the results that we have planned already, but we'll be speaking about the past as a result, not as a forecast. So I wish us all the best to implement all of those big plans that we have noticed, that we have discussed, and I would like to wish peace for all of us. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting session. I hope we will continue like that as well. Thank you. Thank you very much, all participants. We will continue our discussion in a minute, and we'll continue our sessions in a minute in the framework of our forum, Great Construction, Roads and Bridges.
Ми знаходимося перед пунктом пропуску Ягодин. На відстані десь 100-120 машин до пункту пропуску. Щодня практично черга.
We're now located in Ягодин, 100-120 cars before the main checkpoints. We have a line of 100 cars every day. And every month, through this gate, we have more than 30,000 trucks. So the lines can reach 17 kilometers in length a day sometimes, and of course the drivers are not able to rest during this time or stop during this time. I think the biggest problem for the drivers is they're using a lot of time, but there's no conditions for them. There's no conditions that have been created for them to rest. We don't have the service zones, and we believe right now that there is a situation that people are dissatisfied. They're losing time, they live in the cars, and they're going to find some other work. So we have an ambitious goals so that Ягодин checkpoint would have become a role model for the main checkpoint for the transport in Ukraine. We would really like to see Ягодин by the end of this year, and the questions on the lines here would have been taken down, so we will have the right service zones for it to be comfortable for the trucks and for the passenger carriers as well, so that we would not have it that someone is complaining that there are some troubles and problems from our side. We have critically important checkpoints here on the border with Romania, with Hungary, and of course Moldova. We really would like to see this side.
В рамках нашого форуму, як завжди, представлені також і експозони, те, про що, власне, говорять спікери і презентують. Відвідувачі форуму можуть безпосередньо побачити, сфотографуватися і розпитати. Ми із Дмитром Троєкуровим, який представляє компанію «Автострада», зараз дізнаємося більше щодо мостів і, власне, ось цієї експозиції, яка тут є. Дмитре, що тут представлено?
Це експозиція комплексного Дарницького мосту, так званого моста Кірпи. Ми, як команда і група компанії «Автострада», реалізуємо і є переможцями тендеру по будівництву лівобережної розв'язки. 3 з'їзди, відповідно, те, що було запроєктовано достатньо давно, і те, що ми масштабно почали реалізувати в цьому році. Якщо можна, більш наглядно, це відповідно лівий берег міста Києва, переїзд, основний мост, який відкритий, І ось іде ця розв'язка на макеті. Це, відповідно, з'їзди на набережну, заїзд і, відповідно, рух подальший на лівий берег. Станом на сьогодні проєкт реалізується вже повним ходом, працюємо в 2 зміни, йдуть активно бурові роботи, палі. Наступного року проєкт буде закінчений, введений в експлуатацію. Команда працює, сподіваємось, що так як ми, в принципі, і кияни, так само будемо сподіватися, що це покращить і безпосередньо саму транспортну стратегію міста.
Давайте більше подивимося сам, Дмитре, макет. Ви ще розкажіть.
Це готова
глядачам, так.
частина. Відповідно, ми реалізуємо тільки лівобережну розв'язку. В подальшому проєктні рішення передбачають коригування проєкту. Як воно буде реалізовано, будемо дивитись в подальшому, оскільки станом на сьогодні те, що Укрзалізниця виступила замовником під супроводом цього проєкту з боку Міністерства інфраструктури, ми говоримо зараз виключно за лівобережну розв'язку, яка не була зроблена до сьогоднішнього дня взагалі.
Ну, це тривалий процес, це відомо, там було питання і землі, і дозволів, тривалий час. Це макет, розкажіть про...
Це макет безпосередньо мостової частини Ямпільського мостового переходу, Ямпіль-Косеуць, міжнародний проєкт, який реалізується в рамках домовленостей президента України Володимира Зеленського і президента Молдови Маї Санду. Минулого року ми побудували дорогу Р-08, яка веде безпосередньо до місця стиковки моста на українській території. І станом на сьогодні активно тривають підготовчі роботи реалізації даного мостового переходу. Очікуємо підписання з дня на день міжнародної угоди стосовно узгодження з молдавською стороною технічних деталей. Знаємо, що міжурядова угода проходить погодження зараз в міністерствах. Ми, відповідно, активно робимо підготовчі роботи, проведена велика робота по викупу земельних ділянок, підготовчих робіт, тестових паль, дозвільних документів. Тому з врахуванням того, що молдавська сторона трошки затягнула реалізацію проєкту, відповідно, ми очікуємо завершення будівництва 2023 року в повному обсязі, відкриття руху та введення мосту в експлуатацію.
Дякуємо вам. Ну, більше, звісно, можна подивитися на наших трансляціях зараз в Ютубі, тому що є і сайт панелі, вже вузькотематичні такі обговорення із нашими спікерами. Ми зараз пропонуємо подивитися прес-конференцію учасників нашого форуму, а зовсім скоро повернемося в основну залу і вже будемо спілкуватися далі про розвиток інфраструктури в Україні на основній сцені нашого форуму.
Dear participants of our forum, we would like to invite you to join us in the main room. In about a couple of minutes, we're about to continue the work of our next panel and about to have the next discussion that is going to be dedicated to the main road connections and road transportation and Ukraine on the map of the world. So I would like to invite you to the main hall of our forum.
Ми продовжуємо форум, і далі дуже важлива тема.
So we continue in our forum, and our next topic for the discussion is important as well, and our panel discussion will be dedicated to the topic of the car carrying and Ukraine at the map of the world. The moderator will be the Deputy of Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine, Mustafa Nayyem. Please, the floor is yours. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're continuing basically our previous panel as well. At this very moment, we would like to consider two more important issues: the cargo and passenger carrying throughout Ukraine and the regulations of these issues. And we're going to have a little brief report on what is going on right now in the Yagodin checkpoint. That is one of the high priority for us. And I would like to pass the floor straight away to our big friend, dear colleague who has been supporting us in all of our commissions and all of our connections with Poland, for example, Alexei Mironenko, the representative of Ukraine, Germany, Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to ask you straight away, because when we're talking about the permissions, I'm talking about the carrying, transporting issues. People believe that this is our only problem with communication with Poland or Romania or Hungary. I would like to ask you to evaluate it. What is the point of view on this situation outside of our transiting countries, and what is this objective reality? What can we do about that? Thank you very much for giving me the floor. So basically, in order for us to be able to evaluate these problematics objectively, we will have to consider the trade connections between European Union and Ukraine as an ecosystem. And this is that issue that has to be divided in a couple of parts as well. The structure and the economy of the European Union that trade with us, for example, as Germany. In Germany, we're talking about the economy. In the structure of German economy, they have a lot of production with a high value added, and the transport services, infrastructure services are not critically important moment for the creation of the GDP of Germany. The next circle of the countries that are connected to us as well where we have the infrastructural services provided, and there's critical importance for them, like Poland, like Romania, like Bulgaria. So it is not that traditional for Czech and Slovakia, Czech Republic and Slovakia, because they're mostly oriented for additional transportation to Germany. If we're speaking about why the Germany is that easy in providing the additional quotas, the thing is that it's not critically important for economy of Germany. When we're speaking about the Polish economy, when we're speaking about 18% of GDP that's made due to the car transportation, then of course that's 18% of GDP of Poland. Then of course it's quite clear that they're going to be more active in supporting their own interests. So what do we have right now? We have out of 670,000 cars inside of the European Union, around 300,000 is for the Polish carriers. So throughout the last 2 decades, they've had a certain state policies on those economy sectors that should be developing the GDP of Poland. So right now, we can see that there's always around 20% of the Polish GDP that is dedicated to that. And of course, if at this part of their economy, they're going to be lobbying it not only inside of the European Union, but on to the East as well. Because right now they have this point of view as the mobility package, and this mobility package is right now pushing all of the Eastern countries that providing the transport services, and that is crucially important for the GDP forming, they are pushing it to the East. Because every third European provision, there has to be the Polish permit given. If we will see the balance between the Eastern and Western countries inside of the European Union, then we will see that in the East, the transport sector does not have enough traffic for getting inside of the Eastern countries. So they need additional part of the trade traffic and trade balance of Ukraine between the European Union has to be taken to the Eastern European Union countries. So that is why they're building these policies. They're looking for the places where they will have the work, how the labor power, when the package of mobility package will make them turn to themselves, whether they will work here or work in Ukraine. So it's better to work in Ukraine than to have the full hub there. And this way, they are building their position on their permission system. So these balances can be seen for all of the countries where the transport sector is an important notion for the GDP creation. But still, it's not that balanced story for Eastern countries as well, and for European countries as well, and for the European Union too. Because our calculations have shown that the losses starting from 2019, a great deficiency, if you might recall, that the great deficiency that we have seen in 2018. So basically, starting from 2018 and up till now, we have seen the losses in trade. They were at a level of 350 to $900 million as of this moment. So only Germany has grown in this trade with Ukraine by 18%. What does that mean for us? That means, well, the structure of the German economy is that most of the products that are being imported by the car transportations, because there are the products with the value added, and basically the railway transportation cannot cover that. What does that mean for us? If only Germany has grown by 80% in their trade, and this is current data, it means that the permissions have been provided by Germany before. But in the same time, it means that the Polish agreements and Polish permissions have been closed before. So that is why, if we will not going to do anything about it, then next year this problem is going to be discussed in a very different period of time. We're not going to be discussing it in September, but we're going to be discussing it in June. So yes, you were right, and I have heard your presentation very clearly. Article 136 is this focus that we would like to work on. That's basically all of Ukrainian society has to be considering that, because we clearly say that in order to have this provision, we need to have the agreement set out that will regulate the liberalization of trade. which means the liberalization of the transportation. And if we will consider this 184, Article 184 that regulates the sea transportation, then you will be able to see the work of the high-quality lobbyists who are at the stage of the signing of the agreement have a clearer understanding what is it that our sailors need. Unfortunately, the transport section is just empty. We have just the three declarative phrases there. There's the whole empty cluster. Right now, I would like to address Ukrainian transport community because, why have I started talking about that overall? Because when in 2018, Germany has outlined the deficiency of the German permissions, we have spent around a year and a half for providing the arguments for the German society, for the governmental structures, that our calculations are the right calculations. They have been audited. We have had a lot of discussions with that, and we had a lot of correspondence with that. Right now, I have just one person. I will represent the Ukraine and Germany Chamber of Commerce. We have more than dozen of people working on that. If we do not want to see the problem next year in September, right now, all of the associations should provide their calculations and the permissions assessment. And the ministries as well. We have to have the export group that will be building the fulfillment of this Article 131, so that except the declarative phrases that it has to be provided, we would have the clear conditions, and we would have the clear understanding who is supposed to do what and what is supposed to be provided. And believe me, it's not a 1 month of work. There's a lot of work to do. This is a lot of work for this expert group to be working on. So we have to keep on moving on that. We're ready to provide our expert opinions about that. And just imagine that if at this moment around $200 million losses only in the year 2021, then what will happen in 2022? Thank you. And I would like to join your address as well. And I know that the European Business Association is ready to work with us, and the American Chamber of Commerce is also ready to collaborate with us, and our Chamber of Commerce is ready to collaborate with us. All of the associations are currently contacting us, and our ministry has been talking to them as well to have all of the communicational efforts so that will help us at the mother companies in the European Union to pressure on their governments as well, so that Ukraine would be allowed for this transit liberalization overall. But it's not only about the regulatory and documentations, it's also about some specific physical objects that are the gates to our country. And if we have already mentioned Poland, then we know that the biggest share of our exports to Poland has been through the Yagody and Torohotsk and Volynsk region gateway. So in the morning, I've already said that we have started our project design there, and I would like to pass the floor to Yuri Zhuravlyov, the acting director of the state enterprise Fininpro. So Yuri is the main ideologist of this project. He's the man behind this project. He's the one who designs it at this very moment. We're really grateful to him for that. I would like to pass the floor to him. So what is being planned? What will be there? At least a couple of words on that. Yes, thank you very much for passing me the floor. So hello, dear participants. Hello, dear guests of today's event. And as Mustafa has already said, I am the head of the state enterprise that is the client for the reconstruction and the construction of the infrastructure projects according to the state-targeted programs. And if we will get back to the main topic of this program and basically discussing the checkpoints, the customs checkpoints and the modernizations of the customs checkpoints in Ukraine, the situation has already been started and the project has already been started, and we're trying to be more active in this next year. It turns out that I think for a couple of centuries already we have been discussing the issue that Ukraine has a very nice geographical position and has a very nice transit potential, but still we're thinking about fully utilizing these transit capacities.
And if we speak of the following, that our state has to, let's say,
транспортного хабу, то
meet the requirements of a transport hub in this broad sense. What we have to do,
заходів.
we of course have to take a range of measures we are moving towards right now.
Тебе там, наскільки я розумію, є
Презентація.
A presentation is stuck somehow, so
А, будь ласка, завантажте
please do help us with the presentation. That would be really good. Thank you.
Будемо поки імпровізувати.
We will improvise. It's just, yeah, we have it, finally.
Тож, Ягодин з польського
So, Yagodin, from the Polish side, it's called Rahusk, and this is the most, let's say, powerful checkpoint in Western region so far.
цієї країни,
I guess in the whole country, because if you take the throughput capacity, 40–50% of all the cargo actually exported or directed to EU countries.
проблематику, яка є
The problems that we have with Yagodin,
не треба дуже зупинятися на цьому.
we shouldn't stop at this details, because each of you, I guess, at least once, you've been there, and you've seen what's happening. You know what happens, especially before the public holidays and the seasonal peaks. You've seen those. You get the thing, yeah?
Just
what was the background for us to generate solutions for the problems? Currently, our initiative. These huge lines, the queues that we may have currently, these, of course, this expectation is resulting in dissatisfaction and annoyance. Economic problems are there, environmental influence as well, and of course, a lot of criticism from the neighbors we get. In this sense, it's really then hard to ensure any fruitful partnership with our neighbors in future. So if we speak about modernization of the checkpoint, it will definitely include two key components. Building the service zones, which will include parking lots, video surveillance systems, 24/7 security services, showers, bathroom, and so on. So electronic queue system, when you want to implement this, which will allow us to increase throughput capacity, decrease the human factor influence, the time of expectation. It will totally eliminate the corruption component. Currently, we move towards the implementation of this project according to the allocation of the funds of state budget for 2022. We already allocated funds for the state board infrastructure. And we have certain dynamics on this project already. We prepare a regulatory framework for it today, and we cooperate with local self-governance bodies on land-related issues. And according to our ambitious plan, next year we plan to get the expected result. The updated digital infrastructure will be there, definitely. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. That was so abrupt. Now, you wanted to add something. We also had a survey launched for two checkpoints, Краківець and Ягодин. And what we saw quite quickly, quite fast, we can increase the throughput capacities. What can be done? Separating the passengers and cargo flows. That's it. When we speak about the passengers flow, it's not just, it's not about light motor vehicles, but we speak about those which are considered to be light motor vehicles, small buses, you know, this trade movement, cross-border trade movement. It actually creates an obstacle itself, first of all. Secondly, what is a serious obstacle? Constant scanning of all the vehicles, exporting vehicles. So what happens? In Краківець and Ягодин, the car goes to the export flow, but the scanner is in the import zone. Okay. And in fact, the car, when the officers send it for scanning, it must leave the export queue, go to import zone to the scanner, and be scanned, and then go back to your export line. So it's like the whole vicious circle, you know? You have to stand in a vicious circle. If we take this as a vicious circle, actually, instead of 2-3 hours, the car is stuck there for 7-8 hours. Physically, it's located there. It means that another one is waiting for additional 4 or 5 hours, and we have 2 ways to install scanners in the expert zone. If we want to scan it or liberalize the process, let's say, of such examination for the export vehicles. Third issue, and it's not even our issue, so it's like the problem with the Polish side, of course. And they recognize it. They do. They take responsibility that the wage level, when we speak about the Polish customs and Ukrainian customs, so they even mentioned that their wage level for their customs officers, even the Polish customs officers, say that they lack high qualified personnel to actually ensure that throughput capacity level. When we visited the Lviv Forum the last time, the same situation was there. It was mentioned, you know, that problems there are with the staff and the customs service, like 30%, up to 30%. If you don't have people, well, you can't actually scan more cars. This is what we can do even right now. This is what is possible to be done. And this will increase the throughput capacity for checkpoints. And I have a question to you as to an expert. On Yagodin, there is a bottleneck with the with the entrance zone. Polish and Ukrainian colleagues must do the same thing. The problem is with the bridge there. So you just, what's with the bridge in Yagodin? Thank you for the question. Your note is very substantial and it's really significant. Thank you for actually mentioning it, but so many issues we do have. This project was very meticulous. It was meticulously prepared. All the works for us to be performed, the design solution we're about to generate, it's still under discussion. Experts are discussing it at various points. What we talk about mostly is that the checkpoint we will digitalize and modernize. There should not be any slightest delay even for 1 minute. It must be fully functional because we speak about budget income, budget inflow. We can't stop it. So we have a couple of solutions for us. No working solutions so far, but we're just accumulating the possible ways to solve it. With the bridge, thank you. Yes, that's really important as well, and we work on that. We have a couple of solutions. If you want me to describe this will take time, so please don't. You are really very deep in this topic. We work on that. But we can't tell you how will it look like because still we have a couple of options considered. So we'll come to the next topic, the bridge, okay? So we offered the idea with the bridge, and according to their project, how they want to build the bridge, it does not coincide with others, because their bridge will go directly to service zone. So we talk a lot about Yagodin. Who has been to Yagodin checkpoint? Okay, people. Some people were there, okay, but mostly we were there quite often. We've been to that place, and our colleagues even made a small video on how it looks, like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had these queues, by the way, we witnessed the queues. So please, let's see the small video. Just, unfortunately, I'm there as well. I'm sorry for being everywhere today, but I didn't plan this to happen, but anyway. So we are right now standing at the checkpoint, customs checkpoint Yagodin. What is the distance? 120 cars to the checkpoints. Almost every day we have the queue. At least 100 vehicles are in them. these queues. Monthly, through this gate, we have approximately 30,000 cargo transport items, cargo transport vehicles coming. 17 kilometers. Sometimes per day we have the speed. And oh, the lines are 17 kilometers long. So drivers lose time, they can't have rest. And basically no conditions are there for people to have rest. There's no service zone, and people are dissatisfied. They lose their time, they just lose their motivation. We have an ambitious dream for Yagodin to become an exceptional checkpoint for the road transport in our country. By the end of 2022, we want this issue related to queues in Yagodin to be eliminated, proper service zones, for that to be convenient for both cargo transportation and for passengers. I don't want these things to happen. I don't want this criticism telling us that they have problems mostly on our side. I don't want this to happen anymore. So we have the critical checkpoints with Romania as well, and Hungary, and of course Moldova. We would really like, and that's it. Yeah, so this was the video, a little bit a cut video that was. It's okay. I'm still here with you. So when it comes to border checkpoints and cargo transportation, still it's about the people working there. Customs officers, border guard, but also the transport safety service we do have, which was relaunched like in August. A budget was expanded. They now select inspectors, and they have a new head, by the way, the service Evgen Zborovsky appointed. He may give you the details on what's happening in this transport safety service when it comes to cargo and passengers transportation. What do we need to expect in 2022, please? Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for your invitation to take part in this respectable event in this forum. So we truly do reorganize the state transport safety service. What we see is the new approach of license issuance and permit issuance as well. What the transportation service providers already, what they do feel, the so-called Shlach system. There are some results, and we work with new modules which will accelerate the whole process and make it easier for people. 80% of licensing applications, we have it fully digitalized, by the way, and processed digitally. And the processing period went down from 17 days to 1 day. Okay, so this is truly an achievement for all the market subjects. We canceled the reserve fee, and a new module for permits is designed, and in a parallel line we launched the QR scanning for permits, just to understand why it's important. I'll tell you, the turnover of permits for 1 week, 65,000. Now it's done manually, returned manually, sent manually to central warehouse. Thanks to scanning, thanks to QR coding, this will be faster, simpler, the process will be fully digitalized, and we will minimize any human factor. On parallel line, we launch a module, update licensing module, to apply for like 15 minutes, within 15 minutes, and get the result very quickly. So we break this connection between the requester and the executor of the service to minimize the corruption risk. And at the same time, as you know, those who work with transportation, especially with international transportation, we have this very responsible period. Starting from Monday, we've launched the issuance of these logs. It's a very important period. We talk to transportation service providers, those who issued these permits for international trips last year, and you know, you had to stand in a queue for 10 hours previously, freezing, no conditions. Today, There are no queues at all for these permits. It's all fully digitalized, and transportation companies, they are really satisfied. They can get their permit in 15 minutes, half an hour. Let's say, depending on how many papers they have to get. So huge difference. This is the digital service, which definitely makes our lives easier and gives value to service. Program is doing everything. Person is just giving you a printed printed permit. Now, the next important case for Укртрансбезпека, for our service, so the weight control. We had so many notifications from regions regarding corruption because in July, inspector who was standing on the road and who stopped the vehicles and checked the weight of trucks, that person got only 6,000 hryvnias of wage. And the fines were changed to even 31,000 hryvnias. But if you want to control it, you need to have a lot of resource and capacity. And inspectors sometimes may feel this moment of weakness and step into negotiations. But this system that we use today fully takes the human factor away. Starting from October 1st, we have the new law amended, coming into force. The data processing center was launched, and we now get notifications on overweight cases in digital mode, and inspector does not talk to violator. The inspector simply processes the data and issues a decree, and this decree is sent to a transportation company responsible for overweight. Almost 5,000 of decrees. More than 1 million hryvnias we already managed to get as fines, starting from October. I know that these fines definitely may empty your wallet. And as a transportation company, you'll think twice before actually trying to neglect the weight of your cargo. So where we have these systems installed, we can see that 95% of decrease when it comes to the amount of violations with overweight. And when we launch all the systems built by Ukravtodor, by the end of the year, there was a promise. The minister told 103 spots for 2022, up to 200 of such spots. Yes, I really want all these spots to work finally, and this will be truly of a huge support. Loading your truck, as it happens with 100 tons, and crush the new roads with that, just with a huge pressure on the road. This is unimaginable, and it will be punished. You will be held liable for it. It will be absolutely not feasible for you. It will be hard with those fines and the control. What I just wanted, I wanted to express my gratitude to Verkhovna Rada, of course, and to those employees who actually stood for, continued to stand for the right of the inspectors for decent salary. We understand that we need to have more inspectors, 200 more. In August, we got some additional funding, and for the first time within so many years, we finally got enough money for 2022. We managed to launch the competition and get a high rating for each position. More than 1,800 applicants, open transparent competition, selection process. The commission selection was finalized on December 17th, and Ukrainian experts, international experts were asked, HRs and anti-corruption officers from the Ministry of Infrastructure. Thanks to these commissions, we actually checked the data, and yesterday we published the data for all the candidates transparently.
With all of the ratings, with all of the rating systems, and with all of them, for the very first time, we have had the ones who have got the biggest point. They have the invitation to come to our service. They are starting their training in January. It will last for a month or maybe slightly longer at the training of this program. And in February, we'll be able to see the new inspectors come into work. With the help of the budgeting, these inspectors, I do hope by that time they were able to provide the procurement for the uniform, which we didn't have before, and we have seen this information already. We have seen that we have procured 22 new cars for those people, so that they will have the opportunity to reach every point of our country when it's needed, despite any kind of weather conditions, so they will be provided with everything that is needed for them as well. So we will be able to ask for the high-quality result as well. In January, we will open the open competition for many positions inside of our services. And we understand that the previous security service that we choose to work inside of our institution is ineffective. And we had a lot of claims and corruptions in the regions that we have received before that. It's definitely the results of ineffective work and ineffective work of our internal monitoring service. The service is going to be fully reformed. We're going to have the open competition for the main leading positions there, with the competitions for the new people who's going to be responding to those market signals, and we're going to have additional services for reassuring and checking those corruption facts. Those are the 3 new models that we're going to consider in 2022. We're going to be launched there, and we do hope that we will see the results. We're absolutely transparent with that. We are communicating with the market, we're communicating with the associations clearly. Even yesterday, we had a very good, fruitful collaborations with our transport carriers, and we have a lot of claims that our people do not work as is needed. We have some cases of the power abuse from the inspectors, and we're going to be developing additional regulatory acts and additional orders together with our lawyers to make it clear rules of the game for everyone, for our inspectors and for the carriers as well. The inspectors should not demand and request something that is not requested or demanded by the regulations. There has to be the clear list of the documents that will be available for everyone, and we had agreed that we're going to have this kind of memos that we will provide to every driver and every representative of the carrying company, and that will take down the conflict situations that might appear on the road. On one hand. On the other hand, we're trying to digitalize the services as much as possible. A couple of weeks ago, I already signed the main tender for the procurement. We have procured more than 200 cameras, so that we have understood that we have to actually record the video record all of the communication acts between our inspectors and drivers. So if someone have noticed that our inspector has noticed something, has asked for something that is not requested, we'll need to have the video that would also be a testimony for this case. So if there's no videos, then we will have to do something about it. So we have to have the really high quality evidence. If, for example, there's going to be the responsibility of liability of 17,000 hryvnias for the transport carrying companies, so we have to have the liability for the inspectors as well, and so they will not have the situation where those claims are not supported by the evidence. Thank you very much, Yevhen. Thank you very much for joining our team, and thank you very much for doing a lot throughout this time. And I would like to pass the floor to the next speaker. So first of all, is the plans for the next year, but they have to be already, the preparatory work has to be completed this year. So let it be kind of an announcement overall about the passengers carrying and about the regulations for the passengers carrying and the regulations on the auto stations as well. And I would like to ask Oleksiy Dorohan, the BRDO representative. So maybe there be something that I didn't know about, because you're planning something, because we have this issue of back office. The representative of our back office is Oleksiy, who is helping us in multiple questions with his expertise. So we're really grateful to Oleksiy for that. Thank you. Thank you. And I will tell you about the package of initiatives that we should wait for next year on European integration, on the connection between the local centers, between the regions and between the districts, and on the overall stations that will be divided there. Issues on the European integration. So, according to the association agreement, we will have to, there are 15 regulatory acts of European Union that have to be implemented. They are very complex acts. One of the legislative draft laws has already been in the parliament, so we have to be very careful in implementation. We have to be very careful in using the European regulations and rules so that we would not create any problems for the markets. Because at this very moment, we don't have the regulation as it has been presupposed in the association agreement. So I do hope that next year the draft law will substitute a certain transition period, so that for a year or two, so that our market would be the one that corresponds to the European requirements. Speaking about the bus connections, so we've had, the ministry has also offered a draft law that presupposed a very conservative approach for the cross-regional bus connections. But as far as we've understood after the consultations with the public, the final edition is presupposing a more liberal approach for the cross-regional and cross-district bus connections, where the participants of the market will have the market conditions for participating in the possible routes. So we are also congratulating that, and we have welcomed that as well. We had the administrative regulations on that in Ukraine for multiple years, and we have seen the really bad results of that. And we have talked to the Ministry of Infrastructure with that, but I do believe that in Kiev we cannot see that very cool of how can we, what kind of routes we should develop, and the market should develop that. On the 20th of December, the ministry has provided the changes for the contracts on the bus stations as well, and that has been basically the changes into this direction. We held this registration and the certificates provided. It didn't work quite well before, but overall I do ask all of the participants of the market to participate in this public discussion as well, because it turns out that from the previous experience the ministry is doing it not just for the record, but we actually really considering the feedback that we receive. So this is about the bus stations that we have. Speaking about the controlling measures, so right now the controlling measures for the permissions that are being issued, that's for the routes of the general use, is kind of harsh, but in the same time is not really relevant and not really active, because we don't have the normally signed procedure. There is no opportunity, for example, for checking out whether the carrier is actually operating this very precise route. You can only do that manually and trying to discuss why is it happening. So there is a question of developing a more effective procedure. So we have to update it and we have to review it overall. Then, speaking for the unified system, there's a lot of things that have been done by the ministry. We have some legislative acts that have already been approved, but the overall introduction and overall use of it is still in front of us, and we do hope that for the next systems of the electronic document flow that already exist in Ukraine, that already have been actively used by the private companies and the private carriers, that they're going to be integrated with a system that is used in the Ministry of Infrastructure, and that will be very easy for us to save those bulks of papers that are currently being provided from one source to another. And on the other hand, it will be a good source for statistics and digitalization of the transport sector. Speaking about the social valuable, social important transportation, as far as I understand, we haven't yet introduced the classical tenders for that, even though we have all prerequisites to do that. So right now we're in the so-called quasi-tender competitive procedure that regulates this issue. So basically, starting from the next year, we also hope that this question is going to be raised, and this is going to be the problem that has to be resolved. The easiest thing for it to do is to do that in the similar sectors in a similar way. So this is like about the inside of the region transportation. Yes, inside of the regions. So yes, that is about. And the open data, a relevant question as well. The transport transportation sector has a lot of potential for the usage of the open data. And all of the Ukrainians can benefit from that, from the open data, from the transport sector, and not just for the safety, not just the ministry, but us as well. When we are making the routes through the maps, when we are considering the time when we have to leave home to be able to reach our point of destination. So basically, that's all important for us. And as far as we understand, multiple transport companies that are using the different products on the market. So they try to assess the traffic, they'll calculate the costs, and the social value for opening this data will be really high. And we understand that it has to be done with working with the transportation that is moving inside of the cities. And in order to do that, we have already made some first steps. So we've had the full base of the transportation data that is already available, but right now we have to publish this data in a way so that Ukrainian citizens could use that, and so that the analytics and the businesses could use that as well. Yes, something like that. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that maybe you're not aware yet, because we have started already this work and created the unified systems. We already have the TA for that. I do hope that we are going to have the opportunity by the end of the year to have the system that will be controlling all of the passengers' transportations as well, with the opportunity to register the routes online, to register all of the cross-regional routes online. This is something that the ministry would like to do locally. I know that the Prime Minister has already approved that, and I know that there is the preparations of the TA, so please join us as well. This is about everyone, a call out to everyone. This is definitely the open data is something that can help us, to improve the productivity and the effectiveness of our work, and will also ensure the control and accountability for all of the actors. And then when we're going to be talking about the liberalization of the passenger carrying, I do hope that we will be able to open all of the data that's on all of the companies that apply for different routes, that apply for different services. Maybe we will also increase some of the payment for that, because some of the companies are trying to receive the permissions for all of the routes. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, the participants of this panel. Thank you very much for being interested in that. I do hope that we're going to be continuing further on the discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're really grateful to all of the participants of this panel. We're about to continue our forum soon, and there's going to be yet another discussion and yet another session that will be dedicated to digitalization in the infrastructure session. Ukraine, that is a rich and multifaceted country, the great and inexplainable, that has been tied up with the roads on Ukrainian map, open, that is waiting for each and every one of us. The Ukraine is being created by people, for people, investing themselves to the deeds of their life. Буковина, Галичина, Слобожанщина, Полісся, Bessarabia, Tavria, the high Carpathian Mountains, endless fields of Ukraine. And this is just the smallest part of the soul that Ukrainian land has. The land that holds the secrets of the history and the secrets of tradition that have been passed from father to son, creating the new history, this history that has been preserved in crafted products, embroidered or crafted in Ukrainian clay, hidden with the fresh bread on the table, because something that is being done by hand, whether it is a blanket or a glass of wine, is all filled with love and craftsmanship. thousands of kilometers of new roads that give us to the road to tradition and the new revelations. Travel around Ukraine, it is worth it.
Україна багатогранна, така велична та неосяжна, зшита дорогами на мати країни, відкрита та чекає на кожного. Її створюють люди для людей, вкладаючи душу у справу всього свого життя. Буковина, Галичина, Слобожанщина, Полісся, Бесарабія, Таврія, високі Карпати, безкраї поля. І це лише мала частина душі, яку має українська земля. Земля, що зберігає таємничі історії та давні традиції, які передаються від батька до сина, створюючи нову історію, збережену у крафтових речах, вишита нитками сорочка, мальву на глиняному посуді, свіжий хліб на столах. Будь-що зроблено руками, чи то глечик, чи ковдра, шматочок сиру або келих вина, наповнене любов'ю та майстерністю. Тисячі нових доріг ведуть до традицій та нових відкриттів. Мандруй Україною, воно того варте.
Триває наш форум, і безпосередньо в його кулуарах, де поруч основна зала, де відбуваються дуже цікаві і змістовні панельні дискусії, сесії, є і наша експозона. Юрій представляє громадську організацію «Агенти змін», і ми спробуємо зараз так побіжно, швидко розібратися в тих змінах нових дорожніх знаків, які є. Юрій, що тут представлено на експозиції, на що варто звернути увагу? От почнемо з цього стенду.
Да, я думаю, що варто оцінювати всю систему, і за одним знаком ми можемо дуже мало сказати про зміни, але насправді, що ми тут можемо побачити, це знаки, що досить суттєво змінилися. Ми дуже активно говорили про те, що треба перейти від таких, ми називали це текстові цеглини, коли все написано таким апперкейсом, великими буквами. Багато досліджень говорять про те, що люди набагато швидше зчитують тексти, в якої є форма. А форму надає контраст літер, і коли вони всі написані великими, їх дуже важко читати, тому що вони мають таку уніформу, одна текстова цеглина. Коли ми робимо і великими, і маленькими літерами, тут з'являються різні виносні елементи, букви отримують свою форму, і їх людський мозок і очі влаштовані так, що ми читаємо насправді формами, а не літерами, в першу чергу. І тому конкретно на цьому знаку ми можемо побачити, що Житомир, Рівне і Чоп, вони стали більш впізнаваними, їх легше читати на дорозі, тому що в нас тепер є варіативність букв, з'явилися виносні елементи, як буковці R, наприклад, в літері. І ми сподіваємося, це трошки покращить взаємодію зі знаками.
Добре, давайте подивимося наступний. Прошу сюди. Це уже розкажіть про основні такі зміни, які тут є.
Насправді це знаки, з якими ми не працювали. Тут що з того, що ми хотіли ввести.
Тоді можете
Да.
вільно покритикувати,
Да,
якщо ви критикувати, якщо ви
Це наші колеги, тому ми паралельно працювали зі створенням нової редакції ДСТУ 4100 і певні пропозиції, які ми в нашому путівнику вводили, вони попали в 4100. І насправді ця стрілка, яку ми бачимо над велосипедом, вона відрізняється від того, що зараз використовується. І ми теж цю стрілку, це так звана шевронна стрілка. Теж за дослідження показують, що люди там на півсекунди і трошки більше відстані зчитують оці шевронні стрілки, аніж ті, що ми бачимо біля такого чоловічка вище. Тому насправді це дуже такі дрібненькі зміни, які в сукупності дають швидшу реакцію на інформацію і більше
Добре,
відстань.
це якось перевіряється в фокус-групах?
Це перевіряється в добре задизайнених тестах. Да? В фокус-групах, на жаль, в першу чергу моє якесь естетичне відчуття, не знаю, якась моя упередженість, і вона не дає об'єктивну оцінку. Якщо я просто звик до цієї стрілки, то я не можу сказати на фокус-групі, що ця працює краще, тому що ми знаємо, що люди обирають те, до чого вони звикли. І тому цей статус-кво його трошки так важко міняти. Він перевіряється в об'єктивних, добре задизайнених тестах, що працює краще.
Як відбувається цей рух, і чи потрібно, тобто ми можемо зважати з вами, що в різних країнах є різна своя культура щодо тих самих, і стосується і дорожніх знаків, і навіть ми знаємо, що лівосторонні, правосторонні і так далі. Але ми все ж таки в Європі, наші сусіди по західному кордону, наскільки наші вже знаки більш-менш подібні? І чи потрібно це робити, щоб були подібні?
Я думаю, що тут потрібен баланс, тому що не все впирається в такий суто утилітаризм, да, щоб воно працювало, максимальна ефективність була. Цей досвід, який я отримую на дорозі, він ще складається із місцевого колориту. Да. Коли я приїжджаю в Британію, то я хочу бачити британську візуальну мову. Да. І це частина кайфу, який я отримав поїздку в Британію. Так само, як і керма з правої сторони. Так само і тут. Ми маємо бути, має бути баланс між консистентністю, тобто людина не має перевчитися на нову мову, коли вона, мову візуальну, да, коли вона заїхала в Україну, але в той самий час має бути певний місцевий колорит, певні місцеві особливості дизайну. І я думаю, що наша задача – це все ж таки знайти цей баланс між колоритом і консистентністю.
Дякую, Юрію. Ми шукаємо баланс поміж нашими розмовами у безпосередньо кулуарах форуму і із обговореннями великими на нашій основній сцені. Зовсім скоро буде наступна, третя сесія, яка буде присвячена діджиталізації в інфраструктурі.
Україна багатогранна, така велична та неосяжна, зшита дорогами на мати країни, відкрита та чекає на кожного. Її створюють люди для людей, вкладаючи душу у справу всього свого життя. Буковина, Галичина, Слобожанщина, Полісся, Бесарабія, Таврія, високі Карпати, безкраї поля. І це лише мала частина душі, яку має українська земля. Земля, що зберігає таємничі історії та давні традиції, які передаються від батька до сина, створюючи нову історію, збережену у крафтових речах, вишита нитками сорочка, мальву на глиняному посуді, свіжий хліб на столах. Будь-що зроблено руками, чи то глечик, чи ковдра, шматочок сиру або келих вина, наповнене любов'ю та майстерністю. Тисячі нових доріг ведуть до традицій та нових відкриттів. Мандруй Україною, воно того варте.
Триває наш форум і, звісно, будь-які
We're continuing our forum, and we
постійно
know that any
супроводжує
kind of
дуже важливий
reforms
процес
and changes are
діджиталізації.
always supported by the digitalization
відбувається
process.
діджиталізація,
Basically, in
цифровізація
what
у
way the
сфері
digitalization is
інфраструктури.
being
Про
done
все це
in the sector of the
далі у
infrastructure.
наступній
We
сесії,
all
наступній
consider
дискусії.
that in our next
Я
discussion, in
передаю
our next
мікрофон
session. So I'd like to
операції
pass the floor to the
цього
moderator of this
директора
discussion. Please
команди
welcome the
реформ
head of
Мінінфраструктури
the
Ірина
reform
Кошель.
support team for the Ministry of Infrastructure, Irina Koshelь. Thank you. Thank you. Good idea, participants. Good idea, speakers. My name is Irina Koshelь. I'm leading the reform support team for the Ministry of Infrastructure. And right now, standing here, I am really proud that the ministry and our team has done a lot of great changes, for the best. You know, the big program of the president requires the systematic changes, not only to our approaches to the reconstruction and the restoring of infrastructure, but it also requires a lot of changes for the overall approaches to providing services, approaching to providing the services, to the transparency of the services. And of course, it also develops additional legislative acts overall. I would like to introduce you with our speakers for our final panel, but that is very important too. I believe that our speakers will be proud to speak about their achievement in digitalization sector and in the changing the approaches to pricing and procurement. So please welcome Anatoly Komirny, the Deputy of Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine, Roman Komandam, the Deputy Head of Ukravtodor, Oksana Filatova, the Head of the Department of Property and the State Procurement of Ukravtodor, and Igor Samohotsky, the Head of the Unite Association. So let us start with the processes of digitalization for the transport sector, the digitalization of our all transportation system. So Anatoly, what have already been done? What are the barriers? What are the ambitious plans for your work? Thank you very much for the question, and let us try to figure out, first of all, what digitalization is about for the transport sector and why do we need that. Very simple. That digitalization is the process that gives us the understanding and feeling of transparency, the understanding of clarity, the understanding of how should we all behave in collaboration with the state institutions. So that is why the digitalization in the Ministry of Infrastructure, we believe that we need to have at least 90%, but 100% for the most would be electronic registers, and so that the people should not go somewhere to receive some paper documents, standing in lines to apply for certain services to be provided for the people. So that is our main task. This is something that we are hoping for when we are developing our plans. This is something that we are considering when we're making the priorities, because we understand what are the problems in the sector. We understand how huge those problems are and how fast they should be resolved. We understand that right now there is a huge spectrum of the problems and challenges in front of us, but we have to do the coherent actions and we have to be consistent with our work. We have to be really lean with the resources that we use in order to make the lives of businesses and life of people easier. So that is why I would like to have a couple of words about where we are right now, what are we doing overall, and then we will discuss the road infrastructure, as Irina has already mentioned. The digitalization covers all of the sectors of the Ministry of Infrastructure's responsibility. We're talking about the safety on the road, the different registers, the registers of transporters, the registers of the overall means of transport. That all looks like a simple register, but this is all the part of the puzzle that give us the opportunity for all of the businesses to work in a faster way and to understand it clearer in what way and what it is requested by the state for everyone to be working in the equal conditions, for everyone to receive the equal services as well. The aviation sector is also about that. We're digitalizing it as well. We're now having the registers register of the airlines. We are registering also the transport of the small aviation, something that hasn't been done 30 years in a row. We're doing something that has been very problematic for the owners of the small aviations, carriers and the small aviation aircraft. Then if we will consider the 70% of the small aircraft, they will be having some international registration plates. We believe that that's not the best option for our people.
Just like in the maritime transport area. So we digitalize our registries for the small vessels and the seamen. You actually heard of that situation that we had in summer. That problem. And we have even this proceeding launched by the security service. We now built the transparent system. And we will soon tell you, we will claim soon that this problem is fully eliminated. It will never go back to it. But let's go back to road infrastructure. And one of the key roles in the Ministry of Infrastructure is taken by the state transport safety service. The service which actually establishes the rules for business and controls the most valuable. Well, it takes care of the most valuable that what we have, our lives. So people actually who use the roads in Ukraine. In summer, we've already launched, in industrial mode, launched the Shlях system. Not many of you may know what that is. This system does not relate to all of people, but mostly to transportation companies and those who bring cargo, export or import cargo. So this system allows in online mode, without actually leaving your office, to reserve, to book a permit for border crossing to any kind of state. And we've managed to get some transparent rules, and we published all these residual permits, let's say, to use the service, for people to see it. And this was like the first part, so we do understand what, again, we miss, what we lack, and we try to improve the system to avoid any kind of abuse from some transportation companies, not even to create an opportunity for abuse by some service officials. Our key task is actually to ensure that the complete recognition of the system's functionality and fairness and integrity. That's what we want to have, for everybody not to have a single doubt in it in 2022. So we've also had the first testing step, distribution of permits, multiple-use permits, via our electronic platform. It also, it's the first time it has been done, and a lot of questions there were regarding this, why these people get it, how do you distribute it, is it actually a fair and integral procedure? One of the steps to fully digitalize the process, that is, still many to come. So regarding other branch, other link in the infrastructure system, our project called Electronic Bill of Lading, it actually relates to much more people, and we do think that this is a revolutionary thing, definitely, that Ukraine has been waiting for so many years, and in 2022 we actually will launch it fully, and we'll for our transportation companies, for our cargo receivers and cargo senders, we'll give them a very reliable and simple system to accelerate the operation, the payments for transportation, and so on. I'll tell you what the electronic bill of lading system is, just for you to understand. Right now, our transportation company has to keep a lot of papers. Yeah, a lot of papers describing what exactly the person is transporting. So the person takes It's like you take a huge pile of paper, and you take this pile of paper from people you receive the cargo from, you go to this specific checkpoint where you have to upload or load something, vice versa. A lot of schemes are there, the documents are provided, checked by the logistic officer, and then we actually launched the uploading process. Then we have the check for the cargo. Then we send the signed bill of lading by mail, and then we have the payment finally. So it's quite boring and long, but this is the 21st century. This can be done while I'm saying this transparently and actually quite successfully. That's why we want to update the system, where each partner, where each subject, by entering one's own system of electronic document turn flow, we actually turn over. We want you all just to connect to our system, please, to our platform, and please create this single document, this bill of lading. All paper-related stuff will be processed instantly. There is no need to get these piles and piles and push the papers and show something to inspector of the Transport Safety Service or the police officers when these people are stopped. Everything is in the system. It's about to be. You'll have a special office, electronic office. The officer will see it there, checks it there, and we will save a lot of time with these procedures. Therefore, we consider this project to be of huge significance. And just a couple of words regarding the timeline, how we actually plan to implement this thing. Today, we've already completed our central component exchanging the data. Actually gives legal status to document, and now those are being involved, those who want to connect to the system, we call them operators, and this procedure, we do consider the proper completion deadline by April 1. From April the 1st, we'll launch it in test mode. I mean, the system, it means that so far, the system will function in both digital and paper. So far, the driver still has to get that paper copy, but by August 1st, we actually want to get this fully digitalized document turnover and actually forget about those paper piles that each driver has while transporting the commodities. So, this is a very, let's say, ambitious, well, it's quite a harsh deadline still, but we do think that we'll be there in time. And Ukraine will actually get high-quality product. And in the future, we will update it, of course, and improve it according to European standards. And even today, regardless of the fact that we don't have the key product, but we already cooperate with the EU to connect to their system, to their electronic system, and finally get this single document for future, both applicable for EU and for Ukraine. And this will improve our image. This will definitely contribute to our reputation. Yes, Anatoly, I have a question. I just have a question. I'm sorry for interrupting, but anyway. Yeah, we have time limits as well, by the way. Don't forget about it. But you present this high-scale project, truly big, digitalization of it. Who funds it? Where do you get the money from? The simple question. Where do you get the money to implement this? That's a nice question. So each project does have its own funding sources if we do take electronic bills of lading. But okay, all the projects that ministry is leading, funding sources, please tell us. Okay, so many projects are funded at the expense of international technical assistance, such as TAPAS. And we are grateful, of course, to our partners for their understanding, they do recognize the significance of the projects, of course, and they are ready to help us financially as well. And we have projects funded at the expense of state budget. Currently, for 2022, we presented so many projects for funding via informatization state program, supported by the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Let's say like that. All the tools we do have, all the toolkit, with the money allocation distribution, we use it 100%. What else? Is there anything interesting in your scope of responsibility? Can you just present something in public? Just briefly, because I'm taking all your time right now. I really take care of all these projects, and I can tell a lot. I can actually stay for so long and answer questions, but just briefly, with a couple more. What is our pride? This system that we have, the system aimed to keep the proper condition of the roads already rebuilt. You can see what achievements we have. We didn't have previously, thanks to great construction project. And the roads today actually are of European quality. But if you do not comply with the standards regarding pressure and load, these roads can actually be damaged quite quickly. These may be in horrible condition quite quickly. So weight in motion allows to weigh the trucks and in digital mode to send these decrees for fines. And we don't have the WIM system. We don't have an intent to increase the fees to fill the budget with fines. Nope. We actually want to get the system where for everybody it's clear that liability is there, financial liability I mean, and you have to comply with the state standards for our road to stay functional for like dozens of years, okay? We've started already. All regulatory initiatives were adopted, and we more than 60 WIMs are installed in certain format, and we'll have 100 more in 2022. And we'll definitely cover all key roads with that Ukravtodor is responsible for, and we'll be able to trace how thoroughly, how meticulously our transportation companies comply with the standards. Okay, I want to speak about it. For business, for infrastructure, you say this. Certain projects you have like digitalization projects. What does it give to citizens? Okay. What services we implement for people? Let's take the grassroots level. To make it comfortable for them to use the infrastructure. It's like you were eavesdropping, or you were just you saw the presentation. Okay. So for the people, we actually have this very ambitious project just under design. But we want to do it, by the way, at least in test mode. In 2022, we want to have this. So, system which will make our transport routes more comfortable for people. E-passenger. We observe, we monitor all vehicles. We actually provide high-quality services. We speak about bus transportation. This electronic system will present for the first time such registries. These don't even exist electronically. We don't have the registries of routes. We don't have registries, high-quality registries for bus stations. We have it, but okay, these registries do not comply with the requests that we have in 2022. Okay, Anatoly, personally, I as a passenger, when for me it will be definitely okay to use this. Okay, take the optimistic, the best case scenario. If we work hard every day on that, okay, with the best case scenario, 2022, half a year for design, then completing the regulatory stuff. I think by September 2022 in test mode, we'll be able to see it. So next year in test mode, we will publicly present the results of this first stage. Okay, thanks, Anatoly. We at least have one very fixed deadline, so we come to the next speaker. Roman Komendant. You'll tell us about e-road system, please. Who will take this as a new system? Whom did you design it for? Who will use it? And what will it give the country? I mean, business, to citizens, to transporters, contractors. What? What is the value? Dear participants and guests of the forum, good afternoon. Thank you for the question, Irina. So, the system e-road is the only platform, unified platform, already implemented and used by the Ukravtodor. It allows us to trace the full cycle, starting from the idea of construction, rebuilding, reconstruction of certain road piece to its functioning, to its commission. So what do I mean? We have a module, a key module, construction and refurbishing, operation module, weight in motion module, and the planning and reporting module, and I guess also the procurement and monitoring module. So today the system is directly functioning within the whole Ukravtodor structure, who are the users, employees of the central office and the road service. In this system, we enter all the road pieces, all the objects refurbished or constructed or commissioned, where we trace, like, step by step, we trace the whole process and we trace how the plant activities are performed. Roman, what is the key intention to have this system? Why does it function? Why do you design it for? Creating unified registry, the only repository of correct data on the process of construction, rebuilding, commissioning. These are public data. Currently, it's used only by Ukravtodor, but next year we plan to present information for the public. Okay, so every business representative or citizen will just go to a resource like and watch what is being built on the spot, funded by whom. So we speak about transparency, openness of great construction in the country. Am I right? Yeah. And today, in the data I mentioned, now it's accessible to Ukravtodor employees, those who have access, okay, the code, yeah, the password. We can see what type of construction, what type of refurbishing, what region, what spot, what money, reference for tenders, what is the amount for tender, who's the contractor, what percentage is complete, what percent of the total sum is paid according to agreement. All of this is not entered manually by people. It's integrated with Prozora, State Treasury, integration as well with DIAM. And we've integrated this all together to minimize the human factor as much as we can. So can this system, as you tell us about, can it analyze? Does it have an analytical function or somehow group cluster the data? Yes, today we have this module of reporting and analytics, I mentioned that. And we have the minimum analysis performed, like we can compare the price from region to region, accumulating it in one specific indicator on the price of construction process. We then have the unified indicator on the amount of participants in the tender procedure, the price of commissioning, the agreement concluded, how many of these were. So minimum analysis, baseline analysis. We plan for the future to develop this system because we've just started presenting it. You know, we've just started breathing life into it. And the roads are in the system already. So every day, the information is entered in the system for each spot. It's just gathered, accumulated, and each head of the structural unit or any head of the unit of the service, transport safety service, they can see everything, what's happening all around Ukraine. How much of the service is done? How much is funded? How much is left? What is planned? Thank you, Roman. Thank you. Thank you. A lot is discussed in the industry on HQ functioning on the basis of road infrastructure, service. In Ukravtodor, we created this information analytical center, by the way, and we gather the HQ members in winter to actually eliminate the consequences of heavy snowfalls or emergency situations, you know. We have interaction, like in one place we concentrate, I can even show you, okay? I can visualize, we have a slide for it. This is it, this is the HQ. In one place we concentrate, we gather police, city council, Ukravtodor, transport safety service, emergency service. They all gather in one hall, they coordinate their actions directly, well, from one specific spot. They communicate.
And this headquarters, does it coordinate and just does it control only the state, only the roads of the state significance or that are controlled by Ukravtodor, or also by the local significance? Yeah, at this very moment only for the state significance, yes. So basically right now we can be sure, so if something's going to happen on the road, that we might be sure that the road that is controlled by Ukravtodor, then the driver and the passengers, they can be calm. Yes, right, I am Roman, with the help of your colleagues from Ukravtodor, the National Police and the emergency services. Yes, the National Analytical Center, they have the information from the cameras, from the surveillance cameras. Every WIM that we have set out, we have them meteo stations and cameras, so you can see it at all in one headquarters, and you can see that for the key people who can make the certain decisions based on that. So in this case, we might say that if there's going to be really hard weather conditions this year, people can be calm. Yes. Okay, Roman, very briefly on the next steps for the development of the system, and we will switch to Oksana Filatova in discussing the procurement issues. Well, we've started to talk about the topic of the functioning of our headquarters. We currently have the different systems of how can you apply to the users of the free road, and how can you report on certain problem coming. Like, what kind of a problem for me as a user of the road, what kind of a problem I can report? The holes on the road, the snow that hasn't been cleaned out, the freezing of the road, maybe the bus stop that hasn't been cleaned, what that is on the road of the state significance, I don't know, for maybe there is like an animal that has been run over. Okay, but how can we contact you? How we can apply? You can do that at the website of Ukravtodor. We have the road services that you can apply as well. They have their own telephone numbers, and it's really hard for us to keep in mind in what kind of region you are located at this very moment, what kind of a telephone number you should use. So that is why next year we're planning to create the unified contact center, the unified hotline, so that every user of the roads can address with a unified telephone number and can report on the problem that they have encountered. We're planning to continue the development of our interactive map, so you'll be able to leave your request with a video or the photo added, and all of this information is going to be included into the CRM system, so every address will be then approved, have the response time, and the system will automatically inform the road services whether a certain event took place, and for the counterpart that is working on the specific part of the road. So every voice will be heard. Yes, right you are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Romana. So we are almost done with this part of digitalization, but there is still a very interesting discussion discussion topic, this is the topic of procurement. You know, the great construction is the great procurement as well. So, Oksana, what can you tell us about that? What are we doing so that the process would be transparent, high quality, would be effective for the state, would be effective for the users? Like, so what do we do? What does the state do to minimize and take down different types and possibilities of corruption? Yes, thank you very much for the question. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to tell you about this important direction of our work that has supported and helped us to implement the ambitious goals of our leaders, the All-Ukrainian program of the Great Construction. This direction is titled as a very interesting word. It's about procurement. We have had tenders more. So what does the Ukravtodor do at this very point? So what are we doing with this help of our government? Can we ask for the presentation, please? Just a second. Yes, Oksana, if we don't have the presentation yet, we know each other for many years already. I know that even without the presentation, you will be able to easily tell us about your work. Yes, thank you. The very first important step for providing the reform of the procurement system in the road and transportation sector was the introduction of the methodological recommendations. So, Oksana, the presentation is already there. The presentation works. Okay, so yes, the methodological recommendations, why they have been introduced. First of all, we have already said that we had a very ambitious plan, so that, and the ambition has been a very big challenge for all of us, and the final goal for us was to have the successful implementations of those goals. And we do all understand that the procurement system is a very problematic system and a very diverse system, so that is why we made a decision to build up the main rules for all of the actors. And what I can tell you for sure, that providing those methodological recommendations, that has been for us very important. For example, compared to the previous year, it has given us the opportunity to decrease the overall number of claims by 17%. It helped us to also take down the cases of unsuccessful procurement by 6%. And what has been very positive for us as well, we have seen the decrease of the negative outputs by the state auditing services. And this percent is about on the level of the 14%. But we're still moving on. We're analyzing the international practice. We have been analyzing the gaps that exist in current legislation. And we are looking forward. At this very moment, we have come up with a decision that to update this methodological recommendation. And I'm really interested to know that with the support of Ukravtodor, we have provided the collection of all of our actors. We have provided this offers and the project of changes to this methodological recommendation. But Oksana, that's very interesting. Who has approved this methodological recommendations? The methodological recommendation have been approved by the Ministry of Economy as the one that the body that is responsible for the procurement. And by the way, Ukravtodor was the first who started this methodological recommendation. And right now, we only have this one institution. I think that on education as well, on working with the canteens, we have already offered another methodological recommendation. So yes, we can say that the topic corresponds the main title that Ukravtodor sets out the trends in procurement overall. Okay, Oksana, can you tell us as well those significant changes in the procurement and the approaches to the procurement of the transport and road industry? So do we have the comparisons of this year to the previous years on the money saved, on the results that we had? Do we have something to be proud of? Yes, we have a lot of things to be proud of. First of all, the amount of the procedures that have been conducted has increased by 30% compared with the previous year. The money saved based on the procurement has increased by 7.1%. And I'm only speaking on this construction projects. Because if we will speak about the procurement process overall in Ukravtodor system, then we will see that it reaches up to level 9% of the savings that we were able to reach. We can also speak about the competitiveness on the markets, because the overall list of the participants that have been included into our road sector has been more than 200 people. The general contractors in this case and providing the services, there has been more than 100 companies to that, and the overall amount of the participants in the region was at the level of 17 participants. So Ukravtodor is going to be a very interesting presentation slide right now on the new challenges. What else that I wanted to mention in this case, that in the framework of the credit loan that has been signed between our state and the EBRD, Ukravtodor has received the technical support for the certification for the CIPS certification. This type of certification hasn't been provided to none other governmental institution, even no one has initiated this process. Last year, the current minister, Alexander Kobrakov, he has initiated that with the support of the EBRD. We had the support of EBRD with that, and as of now, we're getting through some of the stages of the CIPS certification. These systems of the CIPS certification will give us even higher level of the organizational procurement in the road sector. Yes, so I just wanted to give you, this is the systems for the certification of the employees that are working in procurement. Employees, processes, equipment. Yes, the certification is about the overall approaches and what are the sectors that are covered there. Those are about all of the directions, basically. So, okay, but when do you would like to finalize all of those processes? We would like to end up with our certification in 2022, and in order to do that, we'll be putting all of our efforts for that. Yes, thank you very much, because, you know, both Roman and Oksana, they have told us about the specific deadlines when we will be already ready to see the new unbelievable results of their work. That will be 2022, so we are waiting for that. Yes, so basically, as of now, the President of Ukraine, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, the correspondent ministries of Ukraine has voiced out the plans for years 2020, the building of the Kyiv-Detour road. It's not a secret for anyone that it has been a present for us, a present and unexpected thing for us, the decision of the Parliament of Ukraine for taking it down from the big detour road, to take it down from the main procurement. But Ukravtodor and the Ministry of the Economy of Ukraine, they were still working on the very same principles of the transparency, of competitiveness, and that is why, together with the Ministry of Economy, Ukravtodor has initiated the experimental project on the construction of the big detour road around Kiev. So we have to say that the choice of the contractor that is going to be conducting this work will be done through the accredited platform. We have created a separate module for that by Prozoro system, and as of now, any person who desires, they can follow all of the stages. They can follow all of the stages of the events and the tender that are happening throughout this tender. Ukravtodor has developed a separate site, so please take a look at this site separately, and you can take a look at and you can witness this socially important project, and you can see how it's going to be implemented overall. Thank you, Oksana. Dear participants, dear audience, please recall this site and follow the big construction of the big round road around Kiev. So, at this very moment, according to our schedule, we have a small video from the representatives of our companies. Okay, so they were explained that we don't have the video. Okay, so let us pass the floor to Igor Samohodsky. So, Igor. Hello. Hello. Good day. Good day. So it seems like you have to tell us a little bit about the international system of pricing, the world system of pricing. So in what way Oksana and her colleagues should build up the prices in procurement in future? So how does it work all over the world? And how do you see the opportunity of introducing that to our country as well in the system of the road transportation as well? You know, I'm not going to have the presentation for you. I'm just giving you the announcement of the reform that's going to happen for the next 3 months, the reform that has already been developed. And as Irina has said it in the right way, that it's an international context. I'm not just going to give you the outline how it works abroad, but I'm going to tell you how it works, how it will work in Ukraine. Actually, when we are talking about the reforms of pricing in our road infrastructure, this reform should influence in the price of the kilometer built, on improving the quality of the kilometers built, and improving the overall speed of construction. Okay, but what do you think is wrong right now? So what is the wrong with the approach that we have, or what? You know, why this reform should actually give us this kind of result? Because the current system, it actually slows down the process due to the high level of bureaucratization, because it is a unique system and it's not clear for the international companies that haven't been to Ukraine before. So the pricing system in Ukraine is not the one that we have used or the European Union uses. So this system does not give the opportunity for the companies to get to our market in the fastest pace. So how does it work in Ukraine? The international system do work, but they are working on the overall the World Bank system. So World Bank or other financial institutions, they do not use the international practices because those practices are unclear for all of the companies. If we are doing the procurement with a state money, then we have to get it clearly outlined. What is the equipment that will be used? What is the salary that will be paid for the company? So the state actually in their documents outlines the highest point for the salaries for the employees. It's not how it works all over the world. It's not in the best practices. So Ukraine will switch to the system that has been already produced by the EBRD. The systems for the pricing and the analog of this is going to be introduced in a couple of months. What it will give us? First of all, the state will regulate not the specific work that has to be done by one unit, but they will regulate the scope of services that they would like to procure. So we will be procuring the scope of services, but not in what way these works have to be done. And it will be a transparent system that will give the opportunity for us to control of what is going on with the prices, either higher or no, because we have a lot of manipulation right now. Because everyone is trying to find their own way, and we are not clear whether this overall construction has grown or whether the prices have decreased. So when we're getting to providing the general outlook of the works level, then you will be able to see what is going on with the prices in the traffic services. And that is definitely a good opportunity for the transportation companies. There is this idea as an open washing. So right now, all of the information is available, but right now everything is so detailed that we do not see the general picture. You will have to provide the very complex analysis to understand that. So it's going to be much easier for us to understand what is going on with our pricing and seeing the precise results. So yes, just another question from you. So the introduction of this kind of system, does that require the changes for the legislation of Ukraine? Because all of the state structures, or not the state or private structure, they're working under the norms and regulations outlined by our legislation. We have already spoken of how does it work with us. One of the obstacles for us is bureaucracy, both in good and bad senses of this word. You know, bureaucracy is not always bad. But for us to understand whether do we need the changes for the legislation or no. So when we're going to be able to provide additional pricing for our road infrastructure? Yes, right you are. Why have I mentioned the 3 months? Because we had the 2234 project project that has given the Ministry of Infrastructure additional authority in the pricing setting. Before that, the Ministry of Regions has been working on that, but we never made a step forward. But this is not the ministry, the reform that the ministry would like to do. We have the term that has been outlined by this legislation, the 10th of March. By the 10th of March, the 10th of March next year. Yes, the 10th of March next year. That is why I've mentioned the 3 months. In order to do that, the Ministry of Infrastructure should develop the number of the legislative acts, which is the rules and methodologies. The work has already been set. How do I know that? Because the businesses have been invited to this work, and we have already seen the new concept of the new pricing. We've helped to build it up as a company that has this expertise on the international projects. And basically, there are 2 additional acts with that. So there's a huge scope of works that has to be covered, and this already been started. So I do hope that in a week or 2, we will have the first act that will be available for the public discussion.
And I talk about it, yes. So thank you, Igor. Thank you. So it's about time to finish the panel. So we talked with you today, and we presented the achievements for 40 minutes. We've been doing that. 10 or 15 slides we had, but each word, each slide, it's just a concentration of so many efforts, so many people sitting here with us, people who lead the areas, and people who are related to it. Thank you so much to you, to those who actually push these changes in the country. And we do we're so grateful to you for it. And we truly understand that definitely we are on the way of changing the country for better, and we will never be stopped. Thank you.
Всім нашим учасникам, дякуємо усім.
Thank you, dear participants. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Стежив за нашою трансляцією.
Thank you for actually watching the stream.
Із прийдешніми
Congratulations with the upcoming holidays, and we do hope that in 2022 we'll have so many wonderful events and so many wonderful results to gather at these forums and to have many interesting discussions
результативний і плідний і змістовний форум про дороги
at this forum.
і про інфраструктуру. До зустрічі.
So, the best to you all. Thank you.